Hello and welcome back to the Radio Gamescast. As always, I'm your host Ryan, and I'm joined by my lovely duo of co-hosts, Alex
Hello.
and Wyatt.
Hello, hello.
And we got things to talk about this week.
We got a packed episode.
We've been playing things, but we've also been carefully and very interestingly awaiting the Game Awards nominees, and they're probably what we expected, but we're going to talk about them.
It's getting the expected amount of pushback that they normally do.
With some extra juicy problems, I guess is a way to put it this year, or things to talk about.
Starters.
Conversation pieces. So we're going to jump straight into the Game Awards, and then we're going to talk about Avowed previews, because we're all very excited for Avowed, and the previews have been really, really positive. And I think we all just want to share some hype for that game. And yeah, that's our episode. There'll be shout outs and there'll be other stuff, but those are the big two. Okay, so without further ado, let's jump into the Game Awards. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to guess the winner from each of these, as we usually do. And then we'll later, as we do our actual stream of the Game Awards, reacting to it and whatnot, we'll go through and figure out what we got right and wrong. And I want to have our personal picks in addition to what we think will win. If you have a game that you think should be up here, whether or not it's actually on the list, give me some personal picks. I think there's lots of stuff here that could go on to this that aren't here. Obviously, Game Awards have a very limited list of things that end up being chosen, and that's very fine because it's an award show.
Sometimes it feels more limited than other years.
But like this time,
if variety is the spice of life, then the Game Awards this year is British food.
Wow, I was about to make the same joke. Sorry, Britain. Okay, let's move on. We're skipping esports categories and content creator categories just because we don't know most of these people. So we're gonna move. We're old now.
Sorry.
Bye-bye.
We're out of the esports territory. No shade to any of them. We just don't know enough to say who should be winning. That said, most anticipated game is our first actual category on this. We're working away from the backwards here, so Game of the Year's last. And I think the prediction here is probably pretty easy. I feel like it's got to be Grand Theft Auto 6, right?
I was about to say, if you think Grand Theft Auto 6 is going to be the popular winner, please raise your hand.
Yeah, like
popular winner, yeah.
Yep.
The one that's actually going to win.
I think I forget, is this one of the popular vote categories? I'm not sure. Because I think this is still voted on by the Game Awards Council. But
if you're asking
which they're also
most anticipated,
probably
you want to ask, fans of games.
It's going to be Grand Theft Auto 6.
Granted, this might be one of the fan voted categories. There are fan voted categories. I'm just not aware of which ones they are this year. So
no matter how you slice this, no matter what governing body votes on this, it's going to be Grand Theft Auto 6.
Yeah.
There's no doubt in my mind otherwise.
That said, personal picks, I think there might be some different stuff here. Because I don't know if any of us are GTA diehard fans. I think we all have played them in the past.
I've never played a Grand Theft Auto game before.
Really? That's stunning to me.
Whatever. It's just.
I don't know. It was really good. But it's not.
That's what
I wouldn't choose it over Ghost of Tsushima. Which is why, for me, Ghost of Yote is my
I was just about to say
anticipated pick.
Mine is also Ghost of Yote, actually.
Same here.
And let me explain why. First, Death Stranding, I think, is a really cool game. I think the story and the characters and the dialogue are utter fucking nonsense. But I think it's really neat. Again, never played a Grand Theft Auto game. I don't have a horse in that race at all. I've been playing Metroid Prime Remastered, and it's really cool, but I wouldn't say I'm enough attached to the Metroid series to have it be my most anticipated, although I am really looking forward to it. And I have been getting into Monster Hunter Rise more recently, but kind of similar thing. I don't think I'm as attached to Monster Hunter as I am Ghost of Tsushima.
Yeah.
Out of all these, the only game that I'm even likely to play is Yotai.
I am looking forward to all of these.
I still have Tsushima on my list.
to like greater and lesser degrees, but I am looking forward to all of these.
Yeah, I think this is a pretty uncontroversial list of picks. I think these are all really good
Very good.
picks here.
Especially
Yote
because
for
we don't
me,
know if Silk Song comes out this year or next year. We don't know when it comes out. Otherwise, it would probably be on here, which we're gonna get to.
let's talk about Silk Song at the end. For me, Ghost of Yote is a pretty clear pick of these, but I think it also for me is a clear pick without even limiting myself to these. I think there's like a few other things that I would have up here. I'm really hyped for Avowed, but Avowed is interesting because it comes out really early in the year. Same with Monster Hunter Wild, so I'm kind of like I've already accepted my hype level for both Avowed and for Monster Hunter Wild, so I don't actually feel like I'm anticipating them as much because I know what to expect. Like I've played Wilds. Wilds has had a demo that you can play for a little while.
I know
Or
that
network test.
Doom. I know that Doom: The Dark Ages comes out next year, and that looks sick.
Looks very cool. But Ghost of
It's another
Tsushima
Doom
was
game?
my game of the year from that year, and I think Yote is going to be a hopefully incredible follow up. I'm very excited to see that. Death Stranding 1 I have yet to finish, though I've been playing through some of it a little bit more recently, and I've gotten pretty far into it, and I do enjoy it quite a lot. But I'm going to play that game regardless because it's Kojima, so I don't feel like I need to even say that I'm anticipating.
I'm probably not gonna go know what the heck is going on at any given moment if I play 2, but
I don't know if I'll be any more or less confused having finished the first game or not.
that's the thing. That's also my experience with the first one. What's going on? I don't
just
know.
look forward to hearing more about David Bowie Cyborg.
I can't wait. I'm so excited about Cyborg Bowie. Okay, best adaptation is going to be, I think, an interesting one because I think there's two really good candidates this time. I haven't seen the Tomb Raider thing. I haven't seen Knuckles, and the Like a Dragon series I did not like. So
I've seen a lot of reviews for the Tomb Raider anime.
So here's the thing. If you had asked me, because it's between Arcane and Fallout, and I don't think anyone's going to argue.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. If you would have asked me a week or 2 weeks ago, I probably would have told you Arcane. Now that I've finished season 2, I'm actually not so sure how I feel about that now.
I'm barely on season 3, no spoilers.
No, I'm not going to say anything.
Or season 2, season 3, episode 3.
Season 2 is very good, for the most part. I think it feels annoyingly rushed in spots, especially when there's like very little epilogue, which really bothered me in hindsight. And I don't think it was as good as season 1. So I think just for consistency's sake, I'm gonna go Fallout as my personal pick, but that might change because I'm still kind of processing Arcane as a whole right now.
Yeah. I'm hard on the Arcane train. I think I understand why you're more mixed in Arcane Season 2, but I think everything that makes you more mixed about it has made me like it more. So, I really enjoyed Season 2. I hope Fortiche continues to do something with the Riot properties, but I think by nature, to me, the thing that nails it home for me is that Arcane is done. Like, I got a complete story out of Arcane that I'm really satisfied with. And Fallout, it's getting started, and I don't know where the ending's gonna be. And I'll honestly say,
way or in an way.
Well, in a way, it's the first season of a show. Like, it's the first season of a show that has an unknown number of seasons. So I don't know if that's gonna be like. I think if Fallout turns into a serial style show, I will be less interested in it. I'll probably still watch it, but like Arcane was 2 really tight seasons of incredibly high quality animation.
I think what gives Fallout the edge to me, and again, I think these are both good shows. I think they both had good seasons this year, just to be clear. But
is it Walter Goggins? I know you
can't.
Get
I mean, Walton, he's great in everything. Love him.
I can't.
I think for me, there's a consistency to Fallout that I don't think was quite there with Arcane Season 2. That I think kind of gives it the edge to me. But again, that might change because I'm still kind of processing my feelings on season 2, and I might have to rewatch it again. But that's kind of where I'm leaning right now. As far as general consensus goes, I think they're probably going to give it to Arcane.
Yeah, I think
Probably.
the popular vote for this is going to be Arcane as well.
Yeah. Which
And
is fine.
for once, I agree with the popular vote. I am fully on the Arcane train at this moment.
Yeah.
I did really enjoy Fallout, but I just think Fallout, until I see the second season, because I think the ending pointed at some things that I'm not quite certain they're going to handle well.
Yeah, we'll see. It's very
Because
interesting.
it's more like the ending of Arcane was an ending that I'm happy with. The ending of Fallout is of the first season, and again, no spoilers for either show. Left me curious where they're gonna go, but not entirely certain that it's a great place to be heading. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
I can't even ask
All right.
that question without the spoiler stuff.
All right, let's move on to best multiplayer, which is a tough one because the
Yeah.
nominees for this: Call of Duty Black Ops 6, Helldivers 2, Super Mario Party Jamboree, Tekken 8, and Warhammer 40K Space Marine 2. I think I
think
might have to say Black Ops.
Do we have to get the usual preamble out of the way?
So the preambles that I work for Activision Blizzard. I work specifically on Blizzard. Opinions are my own and all that jazz. But I don't know. I've been really enjoying Black Ops 6.
Which might be blasphemy for a lot of people. I might have to agree.
Because like this is also one of the categories where I have played every one of these games. I've played every single game here. The thing is, I love about Space Marine are not the multiplayer; they're the single player, which can be played in multiplayer. But I don't. That's a weird distinction that I'm not entirely.
It feels like a weird pick for a multiplayer game when the emphasis is.
Well,
on
there
the
is a
campaign,
specific
right?
multiplayer mode, but I think the specific multiplayer mode is not as fun as the campaign. So that's what brings it down for me. Whereas Black Ops 6 is really, from what I hear from Wyatt, really cool campaign, and the multiplayer is very fun.
It's good. Yeah. I maybe not my favorite in the series. I think I was a lot more into it before the ending. The ending kind of
Yeah.
I see
but
Tekken is
most of it was
escaping.
pretty good.
I see Tekken is escaping the fighting game voting pool.
Here's the thing though, I think most people can make a strong argument for any of these. Like I think this
Yeah.
is actually a really well considered category this year. I think Warhammer 40K Space Marine 2 is a good game. I think it made me realize that I'm not just super into into the world of Warhammer. I think I'm just not. It's always been kind of like a diminishing returns thing for me with this world, because a lot of the games in it are really cool, but a lot of the lore stuff is interesting, but doesn't really like hold my attention. I can't really tell you what it is. It's just not my thing.
I'm just not a Grimdark
Um,
fan. I think that.
I don't think I'm a grimdark person, but I think it's a incredibly well made game. From what I understand, Helldivers 2 has gotten really good with some recent updates. And I think that's been the most talked about game, maybe other than Space Marine 2 on
Yeah,
this
I
list.
like Helldivers too. I
Yes.
think my thing with
So
Helldivers is I also wish I could play Helldivers alone. Because I think you need
Yeah.
to be so coordinated to play the parts of the game that I really like that I just can't find people to play it with. I'm like, all right, this is just not as much fun as I could be having.
And there are multiplayer games where you can just run in as a solo and be totally fine with it. This is not one of those. You really have to
Yeah.
have a dedicated group of friends to play it with, which is not a problem at all. It's just when you're a busy adult, that's not always the easiest thing to do.
Yeah,
When
I
your
would say
friends are
it's
also
generally
other
pretty
busy
hard to do.
adults. Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
which is why I think Black Ops 6 has been such a fun game to play because it's very coherent in like 30-minute segments, even though every time we played it, it's been multiple hours. So,
Yeah. And just I think they kind of nailed it all around this year. I think they have a good zombies mode. I like almost all of the multiplayer maps this year. I know that's been kind of like a sticking point for a lot of people, but personally,
mhm.
I've enjoyed a lot of them. The progression is classic Call of Duty progression, and it's as addicting as hell, as it
Yeah.
always is.
And
It's a good time this year. I'm actually kind of surprised.
yeah, Super Mario Party is Super Mario Party. I think it's a really good Mario Party, probably the best one that we've had in a good number of years, and I like a lot. I think there's just not as much opportunity to play Mario Party as there is on these other games.
Yeah.
Tekken 8 is an interesting one because I think Tekken 8 is a fantastic game, but it's had some weird updates and some weird patches in the last few months that have been just a little bit confusing. They've also got the problem of being a fighting game that's really good in a versus setting, whereas everything else here can be played co-op as well.
Mhm.
or Mario Party debatably, but I think there's more variety to all the other games. As much as I like Tekken and I like fighting games, I don't think I would give it best multiplayer. I think that would go to Black Ops, bizarrely enough, for all of us.
Yeah.
I do wonder what the popular vote will be. I kind of think it might be Helldivers.
It's either going to be Helldivers or Warhammer, which is funny because
I think like the panel for this is made up of games journalists generally, and I think games journalists play a game for a little while when it comes out, but generally don't play it for the long run. And I think that will mean they have the best impression of Helldivers, because Helldivers was really fun when it launched, and then people kind of fell off in the weeks that followed. Mm-hmm. So I am betting it will be Helldivers because of that. That said, I also really enjoyed Helldivers, so I won't be mad if it was.
No, again, overall, I think this is a pretty strong category.
I don't think I will be upset for any of these games if they win. I think I'll be quite happy with any of them.
But yeah, popular vote for me, either Helldivers or Warhammer, but I'm also leaning towards Helldivers, I think.
All right. Moving on to Best Sports Racing, which is F1 24, EA Sports FC 25, NBA 2K25, Topspin 2K25, and WWE 2K24.
I don't care.
I hope you love those numbers. I care about one of these games.
I was gonna say, I know which one that is. That's the only one I never cast my vote for, too.
It's not a hard guess. Look, there was an AEW pay-per-view yesterday that we probably won't actually be able to do a WrestleCast on, because I'm going to see Brett in person, but I don't think we'll have a chance to record. So WWE 2K24 is both I think this will be the popular pick, and I also think it will be my pick of the sports racing games that came out. I still hate the category sports racing as a concept. I don't like it. I don't know anything about any of the other games on this list except for WWE 2K24, so my opinion holds no weight whatsoever. But WWE 2K24 is the best 2K WWE game in decades, I would say, maybe 2 decades. It's really good. It's legitimately a fun system. The combat system is actually good this time around. There's a bunch of updates. The roster is really strong. The creations and whatnot are really cool. You can get basically any wrestler that you want from any promotion is going to be made, or Spider-Man. Pull Spider-Man in. It's a great time. And I think it's just a really fun mode. Yeah, Spider-Man versus Bonesaw.
That's awesome.
Overall, really fun game. I think it's got a lot of really fun modes as well, which is always a kind of sticking point with WWE games. You never really know if you're going to get the modes that are enjoyable, but I think they kept all the stuff that people liked, and it's just a good time all around. It's got the competitive like GM mode, which is really fun. It's got the universe mode where you kind of run your own shows and stuff, and that's great. It's got the regular versus modes. It's got the story mode, everything you would expect. And I think that's a really good content offering. And just a very fun game, because I think they took a little bit more time on this one to refine over 23, because 23 was, I think, the like, they took more time to get to 23, and 23 was good. 24 is like 23 but the better version of that in every way, and like an actual good sequel. Okay, that's it. That's the only opinion I have on best sports racing, and I would be stunned if it's...
I think that's the only opinion that any of us is going to have in this category.
Yeah, I'd be stunned if any of you have opinions on any of these games, especially Topspin 2K25. I did not know was a thing until this moment. I imagine F1's pretty good because Codemasters makes good video games, but...
Copy and paste all of our previous years where we whinge about the fact that there's a sports/racing category and just paste it right here, because we've already talked about this.
Okay.
It's a stupid category.
So let's start getting into the controversy a little bit with Best Sim Strategy. Not to say that any of these games are unfitting. So our nominees: Age of Mythology Retold, Frostpunk 2, Kunitsugami Path of the Goddess, Manor Lords, and Unicorn Overlord. There's 2 problems I have with this category.
Go for it.
First of all, Age of Mythology Remake. Really good remake. I don't know that it should be here. Manor Lords isn't out. It's an early access game.
Oh my god.
Have they done this before? I'm trying to think of other examples where they've had early access.
Usually they don't. Usually they avoid putting early access here. Manor Lords shouldn't be here. It should be here when it releases, because it is really good, but it definitely should not be The problem is if it is in this contention now, I don't know that they're going to bring it back when it actually comes out because it's already up there. So
Which
So
makes it feel like
we're
it was
already
a.
getting into the setting a dangerous precedent,
Well,
which
that's
will
the
happen a
thing.
few more times in this list.
yeah,
Well, that's the thing is that it feels like it's here because it was a well-made, popular early access game that made the rounds this year, and less so that it should actually be here.
yes. I also have a problem with this one being called Sim Strategy, especially this year, because these are all strategy games. They should have just dropped Sim from the title completely, because there just weren't. I think it's fair that there weren't enough Sim games to really make a list out of it, but these are all strategy games pretty strongly. So I
Yeah.
don't think they should have
Also,
even bothered
I don't think
with the
anyone's
Sim
going
part
to
of the title.
complain if they make changes to categories every year to fit what actually came out.
I would kind of expect that they would.
Yeah, no one's going to complain if they do that, but they have to, for some reason, stick to this rigid kind of
Yeah. That said,
structure.
this is one of the
Sorry.
categories that I actually find harder to predict. Because I gave my complaints. Despite those complaints, I could see any one of these games winning. I think they're all very good.
The only two that I've played here is Kunitsugami and Age of Mythology. And of the two, I liked both. I think I would probably pick Kunitsugami because that was genuinely super interesting.
Yeah, that's the thing
um,
for me. I think my personal picks are pretty easy to say. It's either Kunitsugami or Unicorn Overlord. Because I have played 4 of the games of this. I haven't played Frostpunk 2. But I played everything else, and Kunitsugami is a phenomenal action strategy game, tower defense-y thing. It's hard to put into a genre because it's a unique game, and I think that's a really strong contender here because it is just really fun to play. Um,
Probably the
I
best category for it because it is kind of a blending of a bunch of
yeah, like
different
it's.
games.
I think a lot of people would put this in action, but I do think the strategy is a really important part of it, and I think it's
Yeah.
fine to put it in strategy because it's just a game that doesn't fit evenly into a category.
I think it's a game that has action elements, but the strategy aspects of it kind of dictates the rest of the gameplay.
Yes.
And so I would say that it's more strategy than action.
Yeah, and Unicorn Overlord is pure strategy. That is ogre battle, but modern, and it's really good. I think Unicorn Overlord is a phenomenal game, and I think if they're voting based on like pure strategy, I would want to see Unicorn Overlord win, just because of how interesting it is to play. It's almost like an auto battler once you set it up correctly, where you're like
Heard a lot of good
managing
things about
units.
Frostpunk 2
I,
as
I
I
have
think
well.
heard great
Frostpunk
things
2
about
is
Frostpunk
gonna
2.
be winning the popular vote. I have been on the record both saying and showing via our gaming streams, sim and strategy games are not my thing. I both suck at them and have
It's a
never been
niche
able to get into
genre.
them.
Like
Yeah,
that's not
it
a
is.
you thing. It is a niche genre. Uh, Which is why, honestly, my suspicion is that the popular vote will be Kunitsugami. Because
Interesting.
I kind of think more of the journalist audience will like that game because it is partly an action game. I think
Mm.
that's going to predispose a lot of people who normally don't like strategy to like it a little bit more, which I'm okay with because I think it is a phenomenal blending of strategy and action. Um,
I was worried that that sort of thing would once again, me with my tinted glasses being bad at this would see, oh, people like think that feeling at first like it's an action game and then getting bogged down in the strategy and bogged down and confused with the strategy elements to it.
Yeah, we'll see. Maybe that'll play a role too. I could also see Frostpunk 2 winning. Frostpunk 2's been getting a lot of really good press,
Mhm.
It's the one I've
but
heard the
I've not
most
played
about.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've not played it, so I can't speak to the quality level. I'm sure it's great because the first game was really good. Um, and Unicorn Overlord, I got a lot of press at the start of the year. I think Unicorn Overlord's problem is going to be the lack of recency because it was very early
Yeah.
in the year, and I do think that's going to hurt it a little bit.
Yeah.
Just
It
because
tends to.
I hate to call it a forgettable game, but there were a lot of high profile releases this year, and Unicorn Overlord was not really among them. Like, Vanillaware is a really well liked studio, but it's really well liked by a very small group of people. So, and I'm among them, but I think it was maybe a little bit smaller
Are you
I
than.
do have to
surprised that
say,
it's
one
that
little
it's
gripe I have with Unicorn Overlord, not a single person there with only one horn. Only guy with
Yeah,
horns there has two of them.
where's the unicorn? I believe actually the
you?
unicorn is the crest of the main character's family, if I'm remembering correctly. I played that game way back at the start of the year, but
'Cause I know this game came out because I know you were excited for it, but I don't remember if a lot of other
yeah.
like if it got a lot of buzz when it came out. Are you surprised that it's on this list at all, or
No, I think Unicorn
no?
Overlord definitely should be on this list.
Well, it should be,
Um,
but like
Because
as it
to me,
tends
the
to be,
thing
there's a lot of
with
popularity
strategy,
that goes
I think
into.
games that are unique within strategy attract a lot of attention. And both with Unicorn Overlord and Kunitsugami, I think they are strategy games made by developers that don't traditionally make strategy games, and that gets attention because they like the developer.
Sure,
Um,
sure, I can
and
see
I
that.
think that definitely happened with Unicorn Overlord too. I think Unicorn Overlord just takes longer to get going. So, all right. Let's hop into the next category. Best Family Game. Nominees are Astrobot, Princess Peach Showtime, Super Mario Party Jamboree, Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, and The Plucky Squire. Honestly, really good nominees
Yeah,
for this.
yeah.
I can't find a single fault with this group.
What
Uh,
I would like to win, Plucky Squire.
I know not everyone was super jazzed about Showtime. I haven't played it, so I
yeah,
can't
people
really
weren't super
comment.
jazzed about
But
Showtime. I think people liked it. I think the overall consensus with Showtime is that it really is meant for children. Like it's a game
Yeah.
designed for children to play, and some adults liked it, but it was definitely not like a lot of Mario games typically have more challenging stuff to appeal to adults within it. But to my understanding, I haven't played it. Princess Peach Showtime did not really do that.
That
Uh,
being said, I also think Mario Party Jamboree is just going to win it because doesn't Nintendo win this almost every year,
I mean,
if
yeah,
not
this
every
is the
year?
Nintendo category,
Yeah.
and I mean,
although
there's good
It's
less
also
reasons for it.
saturated this year
although
with them.
less Nintendo games in this category than there normally are. There's usually like four.
I mean, three is good enough
Three is good
to
enough.
take it. I think. Uh,
So of the ones I've played on this list, I've played Astrobot. I haven't finished any of these, but I've played Astrobot, I've played Zelda, and I've played Plucky Squire. Um, which any three of those I would not be upset at all because I really enjoy playing all three of these for different reasons.
mhm.
It is kind of hard to pick one because again I think they're all very very good for different reasons. I think Astrobot has just such polished, well done
Yeah,
gameplay, and its level design is so good. I think the Plucky Squire above all else is just really clever. It doesn't go quite as far with either gameplay or story that I would like, but it's the melding of those two I find very clever and a lot of fun to play through.
totally.
Um, and I think a lot of the kind of sandboxy elements in Echoes of Wisdom is a lot of fun to mess around with. That's like the ultimate like let's see what I can get away with kind
Yeah.
of kind of game.
For me, I do think I think the thing to me that stands out as the popular pick is either Astrobot or Mario Party. I think will be the popular picks.
Yeah.
Maybe Echoes of Wisdom could be in that conversation too, because I. The problem with Echoes of Wisdom to me is when I think family game, I tend to think multiplayer, and I think this is a problem for every game on this list except for
Yeah.
Mario Party. Because like the category is best game appropriate for family play. To me, that means a game that I can play with my family, and I think Mario Party is the quintessential game for that purpose. So I both the popular vote and I think what I would want to give this to is Mario Party because I think it is just like the perfect thing to play with a family, and just everyone
Yeah.
can have some fun doing Mario Party, basically playing it like a board game. I think there's a lot to like about just playing that with a family. I think Astrobot is the best game on this list. But I don't think it's the best for the
Yeah.
category. And I think Echoes of Wisdom is a brilliant game that I hope wins something else. But I will also, I'm not upset at any of these games if they win. I think they're all
Yeah.
great contenders.
It's
But I think
another
the
one of
thing
those
most in the spirit of the category is Mario Party.
well that's the thing is that this is a weird category and they don't really define it that well.
Yeah,
For the best game appropriate for family play, irrespective
Mhm.
of genre or platform, which I feel like is kind of contradictory in a way. Because if you say family play, that implies like split screen or
what I
like
think it
shared
really
screen.
means is like a game that you would have your kid play while the parents are there, right? And that both would
I
get enjoyment out of.
I was gonna say, irrespective of genre and platform, there's not going to be Alan Wake in this category ever.
Yeah, I mean it's I
Yeah,
think really
There's
it means kid appropriate, right? Like best kid appropriate game that adults enjoy. Um, But if I think multiplayer is a consideration here, and I do think that means Mario Party is both my pick, and I think probably the one that'll win. Especially considering it's the first really good, like unanimously liked Mario Party for Switch. Even though Superstars was well received, it wasn't, I would say, like as nearly as good as Jamboree. But yeah, Echoes of Wisdom is great. How about you two? What's your popular vote and personal picks?
I'd probably agree with that. I would say either that or so here's my train of thinking. I'm going to say it's Mario Party Jamboree because
Yeah,
Astrobot is in so many other categories that I think they're going to give it to another game just because they're going to be voting for Astrobot
and honestly,
in some other category.
one other problem with Astrobot, I think about it now, Astrobot's gameplay is great for kids. I don't think kids would get most of the references.
No, not even a little bit.
I think they're a little bit too far reaching for children.
Not even a little bit. Yeah, so probably Mario Party Jamboree for me.
Alex, you have any front runner in this?
Oh, I thought I said those earlier. Yeah, no, I think popular vote's gonna be Jamboree. My personal pick would be Plucky Squire, but that's because
you did say that.
I like it.
Plucky Squire is a lot of fun.
Hey, yeah. I'm sad that I haven't played Plucky Squire yet because I really intended to. Maybe that's what I need to pick up to play after the holidays.
It's clever. That's like not that it's a bad game, but
it feels like it'll be a great playing game, right? Like a great thing to sit down with for a plane flight.
This is a quality Steam Deck game right here.
Yeah.
Let me tell you.
Yeah. All right. Next category, best fighting. And man, this was a good year for fighting games. We were eating good for some of the stuff. Okay, so nominees: Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, Grand Blue Fantasy vs. Rising, Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection, and Multiversus came back from the dead this year, which was stunning, and Tekken 8. I think in reality, there's really two nominees here. I think the rest are kind of just paying lip service to these franchises, but I think in reality, it's going to be Tekken 8 or Sparking Zero as the winners of this one.
I've got to try a Dragon Ball fighting game.
Sparking Zero is incredible. Really, really good game. It is unbalanced as hell. It is definitely not meant to be a competitive fighting game, but it is very, very fun to play.
Are you judging best fighting game based on its competitive appeal? I'd say whichever is just
absolutely
like
not.
most.
I think some people will.
Literally, the only game I've played on here is a tiny bit of Multiverses when it originally launched, so I have no say in this category whatsoever. From what I understand, when it came back from the dead, it made some changes that not everyone was like super happy with, but I don't know. I haven't played it.
Yeah. Okay, so I think to me, Tekken 8 is very deserving of this. I think Dragon Ball Sparking Zero is very deserving. I think actually Grand Blue Fantasy I would also put in that list of very deserving games. Marvel vs. Capcom Collection is a collection of games that are already released, and I feel really weird about that winning an award. Even though it's a really good collection.
Wow, nice packaging.
And I think Multiversus is almost dead again. So,
oh no! The most that I've heard from them after their supposed death was them leaning into the Batman meme where they take away the horns on the cowl and it's just man. And they posted a meme of that in the arts.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about that,
but I think
like,
the most
and also the Jonker.
I have no idea what you're referring to.
What are you talking about?
It's just the Joker, but the model's a little weird and it's spelled incorrectly.
Love that.
Whatever you say, man. Whatever you say.
It objectively exists as media that's out there.
Sure.
That they wanted to be funny.
All right. Whatever you say.
All right, so I think Dragon Ball Sparking Zero is going to win, and I think my personal pick would also be Sparking Zero. It's just really fun. I think I'm the only one that has a horse in the fighting game race. Okay, that one fight, that was bullshit. The rest of the game, great. The rest of the game, really fun. That single fight nearly made me throw a controller, and I don't get mad at video games.
Oh my god.
Whoa.
All right. Next category, best RPG, and man, there were a lot of choices this year.
Now we're getting into the stuff.
Now we're gonna have to start getting into controversy again. Best RPG, we have Dragon's Dogma 2, Elden Ring: Shadow of the Erd Tree, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Like a Dragon: Infinite Wealth, and Metaphor ReFantazio. And this is a category of pretty heavy hitters. I think.
This is me just being a little bit of a shithead. I was gonna say, does Dragon's Dogma 2 count as an RPG? What role are you even
It for
playing?
sure does.
Oh, sure.
Dragon's Dogma is an RPG more in the sense of like Elden Ring is an RPG than character.
Dragon's Dogma is a fun combat sandbox to me.
Oh my god, we have an intruder!
Is that
a
wild
boy, am I
Brett?
tired.
Oh my god, he's back from the dead!
We found him in the dumpster outside 7-Eleven. Right. So,
It
Brett,
was really, really tightly packed in there. It took me months to climb out. But now I'm here.
You're just in time to vote for Metaphor.
I can smell your stench through my monitor, so that's awesome.
All right, to go over where we're at, Brett, we're talking about the nominees for the Game Awards. We want to give a personal pick as well as what we think is going to win the popularity contest with games journalists. And our nominees for this one are Dragon's Dogma 2, Elden Ring: Shadow of the Erd Tree, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Like a Dragon: Infinite Wealth, and Metaphor ReFantazio for Best RPG. I don't know. I think for me, I can't be upset at any of these games winning, because I have a thing. I think we should not be allowing Elden Ring: Shadow of the Erd Tree to win Game of the Year, but I think it's okay for it to win Best RPG. In a bizarre, I don't know. Maybe that's
interesting.
I came at the perfect time.
Yeah,
exactly.
We're getting into it.
That said, three of these games are my front runners. There's an expansion, and then there's Dragon's Dogma 2, which I do think is actually deserving of being here. But I also think Dragon's Dogma 2 is not on the quality level overall of the other games on this list. Rebirth, phenomenal RPG. Great to play the entire way through. Suffers from being the midpoint of a trilogy. So I'm not certain. I am iffy on if that'll win because it is the midpoint of a trilogy. Like a Dragon: Infinite Wealth, I haven't finished yet, but from the first few hours was one of the best turn-based RPGs I've ever played, and I don't know why I didn't keep playing it, because I'm gonna go back to it and finish it. Played every other game in that series.
So this category to me is very interesting because I feel like I played a lot of games that came out this year, actually. My plan was to actually not do that, and then I ended up doing that, which I think is very funny. But this exposes one of my blind spots that I've had this year. The only game I've played on this list is Dragon's Dogma 2. And I love RPGs. I do love me a good RPG, but for some reason, I just missed out on almost all of these except for Dragon's Dogma 2, and I ended up not really enjoying the game that much by the end.
Man, I really wonder what you would think of Infinite Wealth.
Who's to say? Who's to say?
I think you're to say, Wyatt.
I did play 7 Remake, and I mostly enjoyed it.
Rebirth is 7 Remake, but everything is better.
which is enticing. This has been on the back burner for a while.
And specifically, Rebirth's combat system might be my favorite RPG combat system I have ever played. I think after having sit on it for a while, doesn't mean I think it's the best. Like I don't think it is objectively the best, but I think it is the most fun that I have had, because like I love tag team stuff. I love the idea of tag teaming with companions to do things, and it did that the best of I think any game I've played. Really fun.
Just the choices that were made for how they ended Final Fantasy Remake kind of lessened my excitement for this, but I do want to go and play it at some point.
You just need to up your threshold for bullshit, Wyatt.
Clearly. But no, I mean, the only one I played on this list, like I said, Dragon's Dogma 2, which I was really enjoying at first, and then I kind of got sick of it near the end. But
anyway, I think Metaphor's going to win the vote.
I really hope so. I really hope it's Metaphor. The only 2 games that I've played here, I wouldn't vote for.
Wow.
That's very sad.
Dragon's Dogma 2 and Shadow of the Erd Tree.
Fair enough.
I think Shadow of the Erd Tree does suffer from being a DLC for this one. Like the others, I think, have more
Also,
of the
one of the
RPGisms I'd expect.
and I know this is like a separate category, but whenever I think RPG, the predominant thing in my head for what makes an RPG matter is story, and then a close second with gameplay and everything.
Yeah,
I
I think that's going to
feel
be up to the
like
person. I think a lot of people play RPGs for gameplay rather than story because they like the
But
character
even
building aspect more than the choices they make in the story. But
and this isn't to say that you can't make builds that are cool and even unique from the base game in Shadow of the Erdtree, but like the actual RPG systems of like the stats and like different
yeah,
equipment and like abilities and stuff in basically everything else matters way more compared to the thing that matters the most in Shadow of the Erdtree is making sure you dodge at the right time no matter what. So
and you got to
that's
explore that
about
map. You got to get
I
them
think that's the
skidoo
you
trees.
interesting.
do.
I think that's the interesting thing about RPGs is because it like it it's a genre that inherently invites so many different things because it gives you so many options. Like if
Yes.
you're someone like Alex and I, we really care about story. If you play RPGs for story, there are plenty of those out there, and it's like genuinely a good genre for that. But if you're someone who cares more about min-maxing and stat crunching and all that stuff, RPGs are is also a great option for you. If
Yeah,
you're
which is
someone
why
who
I'm
just
I'm
likes
really big
walking
on.
around, you know?
I think in this one, I think Seven Rebirth, Like a Dragon, and Metaphor are my front runners because I think they provide both.
Mhm.
You got both your story and your really good RPG systems. That said, Metaphor I have not finished, and I've heard. Brett, I'm curious if you've heard the same thing, and I've really liked what I've played of Metaphor. But what I've heard is that it ends not as strongly as it starts.
Uh, the really awesome thing about Metaphor is that it starts really strongly, ends really strongly, and has probably the worst midpoint of any game that
Oh,
I've played in a really
Oh,
long
okay.
time.
oh
So that's
whoa.
probably
no,
where a lot of
oh god,
people like
Oh
because
no.
I didn't think that I was playing this alongside one of my other friends, and we didn't think that we were really no lifing it because I still like had like a job and stuff. But then like everybody else that we know is still like they just got to the part that I was talking about as the low point. And so I'm just hearing like all those other people's reactions now, and so
oh
I wonder if that's like
Maybe that's what it
being
is. Yeah,
associated with like the late game sort of thing. But I the without saying anything, I thought the ending was
you're happy
exactly
with
what
how
I
it
had
ended.
wanted. Yeah, because it's the midpoint threatened to throw the concepts that they made me think were interesting at the beginning completely away, and then the ending was like, oh, we remember how to make a good video game after all. Um,
Yeah, that's
so
interesting because
yeah,
I feel like
I think
Persona
he's safe.
often follows the reverse of that, where it gets really, really good in like the two-third point of the story, and then the
Yeah,
ending can kind of flounder a little bit. But uh,
depending. Yeah,
yeah, that said, I still love all of those games, and I think this is one of the ones where like I can't be upset if any one of these games wins. I think I'm pulling for one of the final three in this list, and I think the popular vote will probably be either ReFantazio or Rebirth.
Yeah,
I don't think
totally.
Like a Dragon has enough dedicated journalist fans to make it the best here.
Plus,
Um,
it didn't get the like. I mean, it got good reception, but not. I think the kind of overwhelming reception that a lot of the other
uh,
nominees
Infinite
have.
Wealth got, I think, better scores than most of the games on this list.
Yeah, that's kind
well,
of what I'm saying
I
because I think for a lot of people it was always like I really enjoyed this game with a giant asterisk at the end of that statement, and that was like a lot of people's takeaway.
Yeah, I think that is not true for Infinite Wealth.
Yeah,
So we'll see if maybe that pushes it over the edge. Because like Dragon's Dogma definitely had a big takeaway of like, oh, didn't love that about
it was
parts
like
of the game.
controversial straight up.
Yeah,
that
it's sort of
It was very
controversial.
story.
interesting.
What story? There wasn't a story.
All right,
No,
well,
there
we
was. It
spent
just
like almost 20 minutes talking about RPGs, so let's move on.
what? Oh wow.
Does anyone disagree with
Um,
those two for the popular pick? Does anyone think Elden Ring is going to win this?
I think it has a chance, but I don't think it's like cut and dry. Like definitely going to because I think there's good competition and it doesn't do it the
yeah.
best.
Makes sense. What's your personal
I
pick, Brett? Oh, Alex, go ahead.
Um,
no, sorry, that was unrelated comment. But
I metaphor for the reasons that I said that Elden Ring
Can't
shouldn't
argue
win.
with it.
Yep.
Okay. Alex, did you want to finish your thought before we move on?
Oh, yeah, what I was saying before is I'm realizing I have played almost no games from this year.
Hey, sometimes that happens. Sometimes you just don't
That's
play
all
games
right.
from this year. On to our next category, which is Best Action Adventure. So this one's also, I would say, a very stacked category. Astrobot,
Well-
Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, Silent Hill 2 Remake, Star Wars Outlaws, and Legend of Zelda: Echoes of Wisdom.
There's probably one outlier here that most people
Nice.
are probably going to complain about.
We got an in memoriam
Outlier.
vote here for the
There's
second
like a-
option.
So there's 3 outliers here that I think are weird. I think
Yeah.
Star Wars Outlaws and Prince of Persia should be in this category. I think Echoes of Wisdom probably should, because it is like half of an action game but half of a puzzle game, so I don't know, it can fit in both. Silent Hill 2 is a weird call for action adventure. Probably would have stuck
Yeah.
that in a horror category.
Yeah.
Yep.
You
But
could think
maybe
of
there
one
isn't
other
one this
action
year.
game to put here. One other
Yeah,
action game.
seriously.
I gotta
And-
say though, I am so happy that Lost Crown is getting some sort of recognition, because this game is genuinely
Yes.
incredibly well made. Thank
Very,
God.
very good.
It's so good.
Honestly, surprising to me
I-
that Space Marine 2 is not in this list.
Yes, that probably
Yeah,
should have
that-
replaced
Yeah, that's
Silent Hill
very
2.
action.
Over.
Yeah.
I also
yeah,
wouldn't
'cause
have put
I don't-
Astrobot here either, because I think Astrobot doesn't really have combat. Like, I've played one level that
It's
involved
a
what I would call
platformer,
proper.
right? That's
I mean, it does have combat. You can punch things, but it's platformer combat. You hit one button and the thing goes away. So, or it's a puzzle and less of an enemy. So, I mean,
They have a
Astrobot's really
separate
good.
adventure
but-
category. Oh no, they have a separate action category. Never mind.
Okay, that makes more sense. Maybe that's where
Maybe,
Space Marine
yeah.
would go. Yeah, like I can't be mad at any of these games. I think, look, Astrobot is probably my game of the year, so I think I'm a little
But
bit.
you wouldn't pick it for a lot of other categories because it's your.
I might pick it for action adventure, but I do really like Lost Crown. I did love Star Wars Outlaws. I would not pick it to win this category because I think the other games are much more consistent.
Ryan, you and I stand alone.
I did like it a lot, and I'm glad that it got
I did too.
nominated. I would not pick it for this. I think for me,
But
my
it's
personal
good.
picks, having not played Silent Hill 2, would be either Prince of Persia or Zelda for this category. I think both of those games are phenomenal.
For me, I'm gonna pick Lost Crown because I think action adventure fits the Metroidvania category really well. Like this,
Yes.
in a lot of ways, this should be the Metroidvania category, in my opinion, because that is the best, one of the best combinations of action adventure that you can get.
And I think Lost Crown is one of the most combat-focused Metroidvanias I've played.
Yeah.
'Cause
Genuinely,
it's got a
it
full
feels
combat
like
system.
playing. It feels like playing Smash Bros. As like your combat
Really?
system, and it's so good.
Smash Bros with a
If you
parry.
guys- oh, yeah, guys, if you haven't played this game before, it's so good. it's so good.
I have to ask. Did the team for
shut
this get
down-
disbanded?
Yes,
Yep.
it
The,
did.
the team,
So-
none of them got fired. They got moved around in Ubisoft, but I'm very upset still.
Yeah,
I
this
know,
is an
'cause
in
I-
memoriam
all I-
vote.
Exactly, because all I heard about this game is how amazing it is in literally every single way, and it just didn't.
sell.
The classic didn't sell enough, even though it
Yeah.
sold a bit for a game like that. So I
Yeah.
just wonder if and possibly when it does win, who the hell goes up to take the.
I mean, the
trophy.
person that led it up, I think, was one of the Rayman creators, and is still. I think he's been confirmed to be making the next Rayman game. I want to say, or something like that. So
It was the Rayman, the more recent Rayman like team.
yeah, which are really
They're
good
still-
games.
Also
So
very good.
they're still at Ubisoft to come accept the award if it gets selected. But
It's just
Yeah,
such an
no,
awkward situation.
My
Yeah.
my pick definitely is Lost Crown. I do like Star Wars Outlaws, and I think most people who watch the Game Awards are going to be like, "What's this game doing here? It wasn't just blah, blah, blah." But it's pretty fun. And I
Stunning
enjoyed it.
impression of a gamer.
But
Yeah.
but
Yeah, it was pretty
I-
accurate.
yeah, right. But I my pick is Lost Crown. It's
I think the popular vote
so
will be
good.
Echoes of Wisdom. That's my suspicion.
Interesting. Yeah.
I feel like that's going to be the journalist pick, and I can't begrudge them that pick because I think it is an excellent action adventure game. So hard to complain about, but I like Prince of Persia. I like
Excellent action
Metroidvanias a
adventure
lot.
game, but I think it's still hampered by its performance on the Switch, which
Yes.
says nothing of the actual game itself. It's just tech things, but the game.
But so is Star Wars Outlaws, so they're both on this list. I do think I don't see Silent Hill winning
Bot.
this in any fashion, even if it's a really good remake, because this is a bizarre category for it to be in.
It doesn't. Yeah.
Silent Hill 2 remake, Quest for Wife.
I really think this is gonna be Echoes of Wisdom or Astrobot. Brett and Alex, what are your picks?
I have not played any of these, so I don't have.
Get yourself on some
opinion.
Lost Crown.
I know.
Join the Lost Crown
I,
hype train.
I guess I'll add my biggest wants to play out of these are definitely Lost Crown and Outlaws. I just wish Outlaws wasn't so expensive, so I can get it on sale because I didn't realize.
Hey, I mean, Black Friday's around the
you guys
corner.
liked
It's
it
going to
so
be
much.
$10.
If you're curious, Brett, we have a whole episode on it.
Oh, I should tune in.
Shilling to our own cast.
True. It'll probably work too.
Where
I'll put that on the background tomorrow.
No better place to plug than right here.
Yep.
I will say this too. Lost Crown is one of the only games that I have played on Switch in the last couple years that runs at 60 frames per second. That alone
I didn't
is
know
a
the Switch could
technical.
do that.
Yeah,
That
it's
alone
incredible.
is a technical achievement. It runs really well. It plays really well. It looks good. It's a great game. We need to talk about it at some point.
Yeah,
I need to finish it and we can talk about it.
All right. Consider my thumb on the scale for Lost Crown as well.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay.
Another one of the only games in here that I'm likely to play at some point in the future.
You would like Echoes of Wisdom too, I think. I think you would get a real kick out of Echoes of Wisdom.
I really would. I don't know when I'm gonna play my next like Switch game and stuff. I'd like to, but I just have not been in a Switch mood for a while.
Let's Switch 2. Come on, give it to us. All right. Best
I don't
action
have to buy
game.
another console.
Best action games are our next category. We have Black Myth Wukong, Call of Duty Black Ops 6, Helldivers 2, Stellar Blade, and Warhammer 40k Space Marine. I still feel weird about this not separating shooters out, but I guess there probably wasn't enough shooters to have its own category this year. And I can't deny them being action games. So I think to me there's a pretty clear winner of the popular vote for this. And I think it might be my personal pick as well, but Black Myth Wukong is very good.
It's a very good video game.
Yeah. I think if it's gonna win a category, this is the one it should win. Or Game of the Year. I wouldn't be upset if it won
for any others.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's nominated for Game of the Year. Oh. I think it's a really, really phenomenal game, and I would be very excited to see it win this. But at the same time, this is a category where I can't say any of the other games don't belong here. Stellar Blade, a lot of people think it's just the porn game, but it's a phenomenal action game. Warhammer Space Marine 2. Love that game. Helldivers and Black Ops 6 had a ton of fun with. So
if you're a certain kind of person, that could also be considered a porn game.
You know,
Warhammer Space Marine 2, not Black Ops.
I don't know how to respond to that.
This is the internet, so he's not wrong. This is probably the worst part.
This is kind of a funky category for me. Like I have a lot of mixed emotions.
Best action.
The only one I haven't played on here is Stellar Blade. I feel like I haven't played enough of Wukong yet to have like a definitive. I think it's very good, but I haven't. I feel like I haven't played enough of it, and it's also been a minute since I've played it, so I feel like my feelings on it are a little muffled there. I've really enjoyed Black Ops 6 this year. This is a tough one.
Yeah, tough category.
I think because it's one that I have finished at least the main campaign and done some multiplayer. I think I'm gonna give it to Space Marine 2. Even though, as I said in the previous category, I think it's the game that helped me realize that I'm just not into Grimdark and I'm just not into Warhammer stuff all that much. But I do think it's a really, really well-made, well-rounded game. And I think of all the ones on here, I've had the most consistent amount of fun with it this year than the other entries, personally.
Only one I've played on here is Black Ops, and that was during our stream. And my computer wouldn't let me play enough to get an actual opinion on the game.
All right. Let's move on then to our next category.
Did we ask Brett? I don't think we asked Brett about.
Does Brett care about any of these games?
I've only played Helldivers. I've only played Helldivers, and it was fun.
Fair enough.
You know, we'll say that's voting for Helldivers.
Best VR AR. I can't comment. Oh wait.
Best VR AR. I can on this. I've played most of these games aside from Metro Awakening, and I think Asgard's Wrath 2 is a phenomenal achievement. I'll go over the nominees real quick. Arizona Sunshine Remake, Asgard's Wrath 2, Batman Arkham Shadow, Metal Hellsinger VR, and Metro Awakening. I have not played much of Batman. I've heard from everyone that has finished it that it's a really, really good Batman game, which is makes me very happy. Hellsinger VR is Hellsinger, but in VR, which is cool. I think I actually would still prefer to play the game not in VR, though, because I think it's a little bit more fun on a flat screen. I think it just blends itself better to that. Arizona Sunshine is a remake of a game that came out when VR first started, and I don't really feel the need for it to win this. And Metro Awakening I haven't played, but looks cool. So for me, it's Asgard's Wrath 2. I think Asgard's Wrath 2 is probably the easy pick here because they did the genius thing of bundling that with every Quest 3 or 2, whatever Quest it is, I think Quest 3, that they sold, which means everyone has it if they have a Quest. And so I think that's a pretty easy win, unless Arkham Shadow's recency bias, I think, pushes it past the sheer volume of people who played Asgard's Wrath.
How much is Asgard's Wrath stuck in people's minds that have played it, though?
It is probably the best VR RPG style game. Pretty unequivocally. Like, I don't think there's even anything that gets close to it aside from Asgard's Wrath 1. So I think it has stuck with people. Batman Arkham Shadow, I imagine, is going to stick with people because of being a Batman game. But yeah, aside from that, I don't think we have a lot of opinions here. I'm not upset at any of these winning because some of them I just haven't really played a lot of. But I do think Asgard's Wrath is great.
I don't have a way to play VR games, so no comment.
Yep.
Yeah, me neither.
All right.
My brain doesn't have a way to play them.
Moving on to best mobile game, we have AFK Journey, Balatro, Pokemon Trading Card Game Pocket, Wuthering Waves, and Zenless Zone Zero. I've actually played a surprising number of these games. I've played 4 of the 5. I haven't played AFK Journey.
Once again,
I play a lot of. Actually, I don't play a lot of these. I only play the ones that are on this list. Balatro, phenomenal video game all around, and I have a feeling that's going to win because I bet that's the game that most people are playing still. I think everything else is kind of faded from mine, but Balatro
it has that recency bias.
Not even recency bias, because like Zenless Zone and Wuthering are more recent, and Trading Card Pocket is also more recent. But Balatro, I think, is just so good. And so, like, good for the form factor. It's buy and you're good to go. You don't need to pay for anything. I think there's just a lot of things that make it really good for the mobile market right now. But Pokemon Trading Card Game Pocket, I've been playing that. It's been my like regular daily game now, as opening packs and playing a battle or two in Pokemon Trading Card Game Pocket, and that's been a great time. I wouldn't be surprised if that won just based off of the Pokemon IP. Wuthering Waves, I played a little bit of. That game is far better on a controller on a proper TV, and I would not recommend playing it on your phone. It's like an open world action game. The combat's really good. They did a atrocious job of translating it into English, and so
I'm sure
I have a hard time recommending it because
I thought you were going to talk about controls.
No, it actually plays great on a controller, but it does not play great on a phone. In my experience, it's too many buttons. Which is, I like the game more because of that, but I don't think it's great for a mobile game. Zenless Zone Zero, I have had a phenomenal time with, but it being a pure gacha makes me less likely to want to continue playing it because that involves paying money to get characters generally, because it's just not... It's one of the Hoyoverse games. They're relatively stingy when it comes to gacha mechanisms. I think you can have a ton of fun with Zenless Zone Zero, and I probably will continue to play the story every time it comes out, but I'm not going to keep up and like play everything just because I'm like, the story is really fun. I don't want to get looped into the gacha hole and stuck in their current timeline. So I think like that is a great game to come back and play the story. It's not one that I would play a ton outside of that. But yeah, I expect Balatro is going to win this. I probably would pick... I might pick Zenless. Because I think it's the one I'm more likely to play on my phone than any of the others. But how about everyone else? Any other opinions here? Anyone a Balatro fan? Played none of them?
Monument Valley 3 hasn't come out yet this year. Otherwise, it would probably be here.
All right.
Most likely.
Let's talk
If I
about.
open up the Discord app on my phone, there's a 50% chance it crashes, so I can't play any of these.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Let's talk about best debut indie game. Animal Well, Balatro, Manor Lords, Pacific Drive, and Plucky Squire. Again, I don't think Manor Lords should be here because it's an early access. But I think these are all really good nominees. It's hard for me to even pick one of these that I like the most because I've played all of these, not all the way through the end. I think for me the most impressive debut game is probably Pacific Drive because of how weird it is. I think that game's really, really fun and unique. I think the popular vote here is going to be Animal Well, no doubt. I think that's probably going to win.
Yeah.
Either that or Balatro, but I think for me personally, Pacific Drive is the most interesting game here. Even if I like all the others, like I think Animal Well is really cool. Balatro is a game that I spent a lot of time playing. Pacific Drive is super unique and really fun.
I will say, I mean, the only one I've played here is Plucky Squire, so it's the only one I can talk about. But it's a very strong, like, vision right out of the gate, like, and so polished as well.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. It feels so good to play, and all of it's just it has so many cute little like fourth wall breaking moments, but not in a like obnoxious Deadpool kind of way. In a very like clever way. I keep coming back to clever because that's just what it is. It's just really clever. That's it.
All right, Alex and Brett, any thoughts on this one?
I I need to play more games from this year. I only one that I even have a little bit of experience just watching gameplay of is Plucky Squire. I've seen art and promotional things like I don't think I've actually seen the trailer, but just promotional stuff for Animal Well, and it looks very pretty and haunting. Um,
Very cool game.
I
It's okay to not have a thought. It's okay to just go, I don't have a thought.
I honestly
out
don't. I just think I'm probably not gonna be playing Manor Lords. I'd like to play Animal Well. I'd like to play Pacific Drive. I'd like to play Plucky Squire. I don't know what my chances are of actually getting into any of them.
Fair. Brett, any thoughts?
I think it's probably going to be Animal Well. And I think that if it's not okay, the actual thing that I think should win but might not is Balatro.
Yeah.
And I think if Balatro doesn't win this, it's because it's one slash is going to win other things. Uh, and that would mean that Animal will win instead.
Okay, that's a
my
good
prediction.
Good way to think about it.
Sure.
All right. Well, let's talk about the hand-in-hand category for this, which is best independent game. The last category is specifically new games or new developers. This category is all independent games. This is Animal Well and Balatro, followed by Lorelei and the Laser Eyes, Neva, and UFO 50. This is one of those ones where I feel like it's odd that we lump in best indie game and then best debut indie, where it's now like, well, is everyone who didn't share both categories are just like, well, we made a worse game than everything on the other list. So, like, does Animal Well and Balatro being on best independent game mean that one of them is going to have to win best debut indie because none of the others made it? Is that how this category works?
Like, doesn't it?
Potential spoiler.
Yeah, that's what it feels like. Yeah, my vote for this is UFO 50. I think UFO
really
50 is one of the coolest things I've ever played. And I think it's really, really fun. Granted, it's 50 games in one and not one game, so maybe it shouldn't be allowed here at all. But
it should actually win. It should actually win this category 50 times.
Yeah, it should actually win 50 awards, please.
True. Oh, that'd
But
be so funny. They should do that.
UFO 50 is a
Could you
really good
imagine?
collection of games.
Instead of
But
just saying winner is UFO 50, he just lists every single game in
Yeah,
every
UFO
single
yeah.
game independently.
Like
15
one
devs
breath.
come up to accept the
God.
reward.
They're all like crowded around the microphone. They're all like,
Mhm.
"Thank you very much."
That said, this is one of those categories where I will not be upset no matter what wins. I think Brett is probably right in that whatever doesn't win Best Debut Indie is going to win this one. It's
I
going to
have
be
never heard of Lorelei and the Laser Eyes. What is that?
very
Me
cool
neither.
puzzle game by Annapurna
Ooh.
and Simogo. Heavily recommend looking at it. It seems super cool. I haven't played it, but everything I've heard makes it sound really fun. Why I know why it's been playing Neva.
Yeah, so that's the only one I've played on this list. However, I will say I haven't finished it yet, which is a common theme with a lot of the games that have showed up so far, because I have ADHD brain and I have a hard time finishing anything. But genuinely, it's one of my front runners for Game of the Year, so I kind of have to pick it.
Kind of
It's
obligated.
genuinely,
Yeah.
I feel like I'm obligated, and I'll get to how upset I am that it isn't in Game of the Year category a little bit later, but yeah, that's my pick. It's genuinely an incredibly well made game.
All right. Brett, are you standing stock on that Animal Well or Balatro is going to win, and it's just going to be the opposite one?
I think so. I think
Perfect.
so because I don't know. I feel like that's just the vibe that the indie specific categories have like every single
I
year.
don't
Yeah.
disagree with
Uh,
you.
Yeah.
yeah, it's like they pick two ish like not obvious winners and that like every other game sucks, but just obvious winners and that like b- billions of people are behind them, and then the other games are just really good with their fan bases.
Yeah.
But they were too unique, so they don't have the widespread appeal, or they don't have like a mobile release, or they're not the kind of game that Balatro is, where you just get addicted and play for 9 billion hours, and realize that you have a wife and kids and family to tend to.
Not anymore. Baluxer took
Not
care of
anymore.
that.
They
It's
left you. They left you during the play session, but you didn't pay attention, so they're just gone.
You were on a
yeah.
hot
This
streak. Come on.
I will say I for neither of these two categories, the closest thing being Lorelei and the Laser Eyes, but I put that up to my own, just not being in that part of the zeitgeist. There isn't a situation like there was last year. I think it was last year where just like some like I just like indie
Dubbed.
game that was made by wasn't even somebody's like first it wasn't even a dev's first game won best like debut
Wasn't
indie because it
it
was
Dave
just
the
all the people
Diver
from
got counted as an indie despite being a
or
game
the,
published by
What? Oh
Nexon?
yeah.
there
Yeah.
was that, and
Great
then the
game,
other
but
game where
Great
you
game.
play as like a bug solving puzzles or whatever one, and I was like, what is this? I've literally never heard of this. What?
Oh,
And then
oh,
Cocoon.
on like
Cocoon's
best
great.
debut. Well, it won Best Debut. It's by the same people that made like Inside and uh other game that
But
came
they just
before
had
Oh.
a new studio, so it counted.
that. Yeah, they just have a different name, so it
Mm.
counts. And then I played. I was like, this is like fine. This is like the most. Why does this win game like Best Indie for this category compared to like other stuff that has like way more people talking about it? It's just very strange. But
Because the
I
people who
feel
are
like I'm
voting
not
on
going to
this
be
have
unreasonable.
cod brain.
I don't. It's like Cod Brain, but then they have like a like like Fruit Ninja Brain, where it's just
Well,
like
I
I
say
don't know, like whatever.
I say cod brain. I should elaborate. That cod is short for cottage cheese brain.
Okay,
Okay,
well, I think it's time to move
okay.
on because we got a lot of categories to get through still. So, best community
Categories?
support. This is going to be Baldur's Gate 3, Final Fantasy 14, Fortnite, Helldivers 2, and No Man's Sky. This is actually a tough one for me this year because I do think all of these games did a pretty good job. Helldivers had some fumbles, but I think they've recovered very well. No Man's Sky continues to be really good. Final Fantasy 14 never
Yeah.
lost to the community
I will
support angle.
say,
They always do a great
community
job at.
support, or it's like they haven't been part of the ongoing category for a while.
I
But
feel like No Man's Sky
but
wins the
I
most
mean,
improved award every year.
So I think for me, for community support specifically, which is transparency and responsiveness and social media activity and stuff like that, I think it's got to be Baldur's Gate 3. I think surprisingly, I have to give this to the game that isn't like a multiplayer live service because
not ongoing.
I think Baldur's Gate 3 did the best community support and like community jokes and whatnot, and the best job of all of that. So
by making a full game and releasing it.
Well, releasing tons of patches too, like tons of really cool patches and like epilogue stuff that they are doing because people wanted it.
Accidentally giving a cat hair, taking it away again.
You know, sometimes it happens. Sometimes a cat spontaneously grows hair, and you got to fix it. But yeah, I'm curious if anyone else has thoughts.
Not particularly. I mean, I'm trying to think. Yeah, I've played 3 of these games, but I played Fortnite twice and I got a headache, so I'm good. I know Helldivers has gotten better, but I haven't played it since it's gotten better. And I will say this, immediately my thought was like, oh, No Man's Sky, because they keep releasing these genuinely game-changing updates every 3 or 4 months, something like that.
No Man's Sky is always here.
But at the same time, this is community support.
Yeah, this isn't necessarily that category.
So the thing is, they're actually very quiet about updates, and they just drop them on you out of nowhere, which is fun. But in terms of community support, it doesn't really fit in the category all that well. So I think I don't really have a say either way, to be honest.
I'd say Baldur's Gate. Most of the stuff, I know they haven't improved, but almost the only things that stick in my head about Helldivers are the negative press that they've got and things like that with the whole Sony account and things like that. And Baldur's Gate 3 has been almost nothing but entirely positive.
Yeah.
In my memory and from other things that I can't remember.
I will say one thing. I have never ever seen, because my girlfriend does play games, but she's not as into it as we are, for example, right? Like she doesn't really keep up with developer updates and stuff. Except for Baldur's Gate 3. She is very on top of when new updates are coming out and what Larian has been discussing with the community and stuff. So I think that's worth noting, that I think they're bringing in people who don't normally pay as much attention to this stuff as we do,
Yeah.
And that's why it's going to be Fortnite. And that's why it's going to be Fortnite. There's no question about it. That's why it's going to be Fortnite.
Please stop putting Nicki Minaj in games.
Let's move on to best ongoing, which is a category. Oh, Alex,
I thought it just reloaded the same page.
Oh no, there's different stuff here.
There is.
So this is a category that I have to caveat in that I worked in one of the games that's nominated for this. I'm not going to talk about my thoughts on who should win directly because I think that's rude. To try and bash I work on Diablo IV, which is nominated for this along with Destiny 2, Final Fantasy XIV, Fortnite, and Helldivers 2. I'm biased. I think there are a few mainstays here that I think there are less of a chance. Normally, I'm a big Final Fantasy XIV pusher for best ongoing. The last expansion, not the best. Not the worst, but it's a downturn.
It was this year that it came out, right?
I think so. Yeah, start of the year.
I think so.
Downturn compared to the last stuff they released. So I have to discount Final Fantasy XIV from my perspective. I think Fortnite always has good content drops, and it's just an incredibly confusing game to try to keep up with. Helldivers 2, I just kind of am not playing right now. I've heard the updates are really good, but I'm
But they also had a lot of bad updates, which is important to keep in mind.
But they started fixing them. They did the better thing.
Well, that's the thing, though, is that do we judge games in a ongoing category?
That's the problem.
Do we judge games based on how they are now, or do we judge them based on the entire year's worth of support that it's had?
Which brings another problem with Destiny 2, because Destiny 2 had the best expansion they ever done.
The story was great. All the content past that?
So the content that came with it was really good. Like, we had a great time in the raid and everything. I've got my Salvation's Edge jacket in the closet from doing that raid. I think that expansion was so much fun to play through the single time for that single story run. But I'm sure it'd be great fun playing it on secondary characters and stuff. But man, did they drop the ball afterwards.
Yeah, especially with the whole mix-up where it's like, instead of seasons, we're doing episodes that are the exact same
There's
thing as
just a
seasons,
lot of
but there's 3 of
confusion.
them.
There's a lot of confusion, a lot of like uncertain content. Destiny's ongoing content structure is just not a thing I'm a huge fan of in general.
Which again, it comes back to the question: do we judge a game based on the overall quality?
Yeah, it's like, are we judging it based on the
support?
expansion that came out, or are we judging it based on the updates after the expansion?
I think you have to look at the entire time, like, during this year that it's been out, if we're talking about ongoing. That being the case, I wouldn't put my vote in for it. Like I said, the content that dropped with the expansion, the story, the raid, and that stuff, really good. Everything else has had a noticeable drop off.
Yeah, and also my incredibly biased and not
decided to
worth
get rid of
anything vote. My incredibly biased and not worth anything vote for this category is for Diablo IV. I do work on it, so that means nothing. Just everyone else, you're the owners of this category.
I don't work on it, which is why my vote means something. I'd vote Diablo 4.
I mean, yeah.
Especially with the way they revamped loot. Oh my god.
I think mine is for Diablo 4 by default, because I kind of became disillusioned with Helldivers and I don't play it as much. I've heard it's better. I just don't have the desire to go back and play it right now. It's just not something I'm into at the moment. Haven't played Fortnite, haven't played Final Fantasy 14. I have nothing to comment on. Don't give 2 shits about Destiny.
Oh, that's too bad, Wyatt.
So I think mine by default is Diablo 4, because I have played the expansion. Not all of it, but I've played a bunch of it, and it was pretty cool, and the new class was pretty cool. That's all I got.
Good enough. You got a horse in this race, Brett?
That's all it's gonna be Fortnite.
Brett, are you just saying that because you can play as Peter Griffin?
I'm saying that because they added Snoop Dogg and they changed the boogie bomb to when you throw it at somebody, they do the Snoop Dogg dance. So it's gonna be Fortnite.
Here's the thing. This bit is really funny because it sounds like you're joking, but you're also probably being serious.
But we also did do like a 2-hour stream of Fortnite that was really fun. So
it was really fun, even though we sucked, because
we got close once or twice, but
you can't keep up with the sweaty 10-year-olds that play this game. Okay.
The correction to that statement is you can't keep up with the sweaty 10-year-olds unless you start using strategies that they can't comprehend, aka 4 adults versus 4 10-year-olds. Always works. I have never said, I haven't said, even though it doesn't work anymore, I haven't reflexively said the words Xbox record that in years. And the other night, I Lee Harvey Oswalded some kid so bad to win the game. It was the biggest shot of adrenaline I've ever had in my entire life. And then I killed a whole entire team with 1 rocket. It was amazing.
I'm so glad that you're here for this, Brett.
Fucking sucks, and I can't wait for it to be over.
Oh my
so
god!
Put the fun things back into the game, like the Dr. Doom beam and the Iron Man boots.
Hey, Brett, can I just be the first to say, I'm so happy you're back right now.
I'm glad. I'm glad.
Okay, let's move on to the next category. Rescue us from this hellscape with the games for impact category. So it's time to get a little bit more serious.
Bit of a tone shift.
Bit of a tone shift. Our nominees here are Closer the Distance, Indica, Neva, Life is Strange Double Exposure, Senua Saga Hellblade 2, and Tales of Kenzera Zhao. This is one of the categories I've not played most of the games here. I think I've only played actually the Tales of Kenzera, which I've really enjoyed. But all of these seem good. I've heard about most of them. So
I played 2 on this list. Neither of them I finished. Again, that is the theme of the games that I've played this year.
Yeah.
I've played Neva, haven't finished it, but am loving it. I also haven't finished Hellblade 2 yet. That one, I really got to finish it before I can kind of finalize my thoughts on it, because fascinating.
I didn't realize Double Exposure was out, and I voted and I bet on that in our fantasy league.
Yeah, it came out a couple weeks ago.
Also, remind me, is Tales of Kanzura Zhao, is that, correct me if I'm wrong here, is that another posthumous vote?
No.
Did some...
No,
Okay,
it's not.
good.
That's the studio is still
Okay.
around.
Oh,
That's I'm
thank
gonna
God.
butcher the
Okay.
name, and I'm so sorry. That's Abdukar Salim's studio.
Because I feel like the release a really good game that just doesn't sell enough for someone and the studio closes happened more than once this year. Is that...
It's happened
Uh,
8,000
yeah.
times in the last 2 years, so I don't blame you for
This is a
thinking
lot.
that because it's true.
I think all of these studios are still around and doing fine. I don't think any of these studios are posthumous votes.
Yeah.
I think only one for I think the only one for any of the Game Awards categories was the Prince of Persia
Yeah.
dev team. I want to say that's the case.
And I'll recorrect the name, Abubakar Salim. Very, very cool game, and the studio is really fun. That's my personal vote, but it's solely that because I haven't played the others.
Yeah, my personal vote, as because again I haven't finished either of these. As it stands right now, I think I think I'd pick Neva. It's weird to compare the two because they're so different, but I would pick Neva out of the two. Not to say that I have had a bad time with Hellblade 2, but I need more time with that. But when it comes down to the popular vote, I'm gonna say it's probably either Life is Strange or Hellblade 2.
You know what?
Yeah.
I think it's Hellblade 2 or Neva. I think Neva's actually
Ooh,
gonna
okay.
be up there in the popular vote. I don't think Life is Strange is gonna be there because Life is Strange always has the problem of no matter what they do in Life is Strange, half of the people are gonna hate it because they have really strong opinions. So I'll be really curious.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Guys,
I
can you
hope-
believe that they made Life is Strange Double Exposure woke after the first game was perfectly fine?
I think the craziest thing is I think it's just like it's never gonna shake. It's never gonna shake that. For as long as they keep calling it Life is Strange : something, it's never gonna shake that.
Even True
None of these
Colors, which
people,
did not have any connection to the other.
yeah, but
I
it's
love
like
that game. But
even though so many of the people that will say that any Life is Strange thing is bad, whether it's because woke or not, it probably hadn't played it,
God.
and it's just because of what people said about the first one, because that's just ingrained into the internet soul at this point, is that Life is Strange, haha, funny, stink, the bad, doo doo, haha. So I don't know if
Oh,
that's ever going to
stinky.
change.
I would really love Neva to win something. It's not in a lot of the categories that I would want it to be in, but I hope it wins something. So if it wins Games for Impact, hey, that's pretty cool.
yeah. I think that the main thing stopping me from like really calling a winner here is I think this category is going to be very based on like the message that the game is trying to get across, and because I know very little about Indica and Closer the Distance, I feel very unconfident in saying what message they're trying to get across, and I feel like if I've heard Indica's really good from people, and I've heard very little about Closer the Distance, but that doesn't mean anything. That just means I haven't heard about it. So
Plus, it's also going to come down to which of these messages really resonates with the judges the most. Not to say that it's a popularity contest, but of course, when you have a game that is very much leaning on its themes, it's going to speak to some people and it's not going to speak to other people. So it kind of comes down to like which one speaks to the judges the most.
All right,
Or the
so we
most
go
amount of
to
judges.
our next category then, innovation and accessibility, which is Call of Duty Black Ops 6, Diablo 4, Dragon Age Veilguard, Prince of Persia, Lost Crown, and Star Wars Outlaws. Same caveat I gave you the last one applies here. I do think, for me personally, I think Outlaws and Prince of Persia, I don't recall having anything too crazy in terms of accessibility. They have a lot of really cool
nice,
stuff.
difficulty like options, which were always pro, like having a list of difficulty things to change rather than one fighter,
good.
which is nice. Yeah, it's pretty nice.
First, and God willing, the only ever compliment I'll give Call of Duty, I from what little I did get to play from our stream, got to look at the options. Some pretty good stuff there. Pretty good stuff
But in
there
the
for
end,
accessibility.
you couldn't access the game, so I don't know how
I
much
got to
that
play.
That
helped
was
you.
his computer, to be fair.
It
Was
was
Alex's computer.
yeah. That's entirely a me technology thing. I think I have a magnetic field going on around me 24/7. I got to play like half of a match.
You've
But
inherited
also,
my bad tech juju, and you know what? That's fine.
It's
I don't
not
want it
fine,
anymore.
Wyatt. Take it off me. I don't care what
It's
you
your
do. Take it
problem
off
now.
me.
It's your problem
But also
now.
that being said, I love the highlights and how they've updated the visuals for Vessel of Hatred as well.
You
I
know
love
what?
being able to see my character in a sea of ads.
I actually don't recall Veilguard's like
I
accessibility
remember it being
options off
pretty
the top of my head.
impressive. So
I'm literally booting up the game right now to look at the options because I'm actually not sure.
Are you sure it's just for that?
Hey.
yeah, I
Hey.
feel unqualified to call a winner for this regardless. So
Yeah.
we're not the group that uses accessibility options or pays too much attention to them. So I am glad to see this category here, and I'm glad to see whatever wins. But I don't have a horse in this race. But I do hope we continue getting more games that do this, because unlike a couple years ago, we had a game that just went above and beyond. I think it was Last of Us Part 2. Had just like a
that was
crazy level of options that were super cool.
You could customize that game in a way where if you you're blind, they fully have options where you can still play the game if you're blind.
Yeah,
which is
super cool.
Insane. That's crazy. Especially for like a 3D, game.
Yeah, I don't think we had anything that crazy this year, but I could be wrong. Like maybe one of these games does. So
again, I'm literally booting up Veilguard right now to double check.
How impressive is that menu, Wyatt? How quickly can you access it?
I'm getting there.
Taking a few minutes.
What options are in there?
It's got to compile those shaders,
Oh boy.
All right,
we're gonna be here for a bit.
While you're compiling shaders, we're gonna move on, and you can tell us if that menu is impressive in the future.
Alrighty.
With best performance is our next award, and nominees for this are Brianna White, who plays Aerith in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Hannah Tell, who plays Max in Life is Strange Double Exposure, Humberly Gonzalez, who plays Kay in Star Wars Outlaws, Luke Roberts, who plays the dude in Silent Hill 2, which I haven't played, so I don't know the name.
James.
I assume.
Okay.
I assume he plays James.
Last name
I think we just hurt Brett's feelings.
Okay. Well, this is also a good time to point out why. How are you gonna? What you're not gonna put their roles? You're just gonna put the game that they're from?
Yeah.
What this is so stupid.
I agree with you.
So
I really wish they just put the name of the character. And Melina Jurgens, who was the main character of Hellblade, both games. So I think my personal pick for this, and I'm going to specify this, I have not played Hellblade 2, and I have a feeling that if I did, it would be Melina Jurgens. I think that is a very fair thing to say.
As well,
absolutely,
especially because they've got from like the press that we've seen, they've gone into a lot of detail of showing us the facial capture of that too. So there's a good deal of physical as well, along with.
I think popular vote, Melina Jurgens probably going to win. I think deserving vote, Melina Jurgens is probably going to win. I will not be upset if Melina Jurgens win.
Special note, though, Humberly Gonzalez does a fantastic job. I was genuinely very impressed.
Yeah, I think there's a degree here of like the vocal inflections that each of these roles require. And I think Hellblade 2 is probably the most complicated. And it requires incredibly good voice acting to pull off, and actual facial acting, knowing how that game was recorded. So
yeah,
I think she's probably going to win.
Where you're just seeing Senua's face.
Yep.
And it also it can sometimes communicate just as much as when she is speaking, because she actually has a much larger speaking role in this than she did in the first game.
Yep.
Yeah, no, she killed it.
My personal vote is going to go to Brianna White, who did Aerith in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and I will not be elaborating.
All right.
I think she just has a killer performance and a really, really good range. Aerith is a big part of the second part of Final Fantasy VII, as people that have played the original game know, and she does a really good job at everything that she needed to do, and especially expanding on the character in a way that, like, that character had a couple hours of screen time in the initial game and gets way more in Rebirth. And I'm really excited to see where it goes in the future.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, the accessibility menu in Veilguard is fun.
All right.
All that
for that. Anyone else have a voice actor performance they want to spout here?
I mean, I have not played any of these for myself yet, but I guess one of the important things for me, I guess, was the performances in Silent Hill 2 not sucking. And from what I have seen and heard, they really don't, which is good. There's a weird thing in Silent Hill in general where if you try to play it serious and you take the Twin Peaksness out and you like perform it normally, like normal people would talk to each other in like a movie, and not like in Twin Peaks, then there's going to be a problem. There's going to be some dissonance there because that's not how it normally is, and they've tried it a couple times and it's been really bad. But
Yeah.
I'm sure Troy Baker
if
tried his best.
if we are to believe that this man Luke Roberts is the guy who plays James, which there's simply no way that we could possibly know because it's not on the website, and I don't care enough to look it up right now. Um, uh, James's performance is really good, and they do a lot of subtle character things that they found some things that the PS2 couldn't do, and they decided to actually use the hardware to do that instead of just
Ooh.
somehow making it look worse and perform worse. And part of that is like is going to James's specific expressions, and his performance is like super tired and depressed sounding, and really fits the character.
I
Sorry,
wonder
Troy
if
Yeah.
getting
Baker.
to
Seems really cool.
I'm sure he tried his best.
He probably
Okay.
did.
Next up, our category, unless Alex, you have a special mention you want to give in there. I don't think.
Oh no, I
any
was
of the
agreeing
games?
with
yeah.
I was agreeing with Senua, but I have also, not played any of the games. I've just
All right.
seen the marketing and behind the scenes stuff for
Moving
some.
on to Best Audio Design, our nominees are Astro Bot, Call of Duty Black Ops 6, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Senua's Saga Hellblade 2, and Silent Hill 2. I think these are all great nominees. I think there is a very clear winner for everything
Audio
on this
design.
category, which is Hellblade 2.
Well, yeah.
I think only one of these games had like multiple presentations come out about how
No
they recorded
contest.
the audio for it.
Oh, actual binaural like audio for the sirens and everything. It's like because it's the same thing that they did in in the first game, but it's so creepy and it gets you every time. Like I played the first game pretty close to playing the second game, and it's still like it makes you so uncomfortable whenever you play that game because it's just so it's so well done. It literally feels like they're whispering in your ear, and it's like you can almost feel them breathing down your neck. It just it's so well done.
Yeah, I know. I think even having not played it with the little that I know, I don't think any of the other games on this list are probably going as crazy as they did for that one. All right.
Yeah.
Let's talk next about, unless anyone has a disagreement with that, which I
No, I was
don't
gonna
have
say,
enough
what's
information.
the audio design for Black Ops we got here? It's current music and getting tinnitus.
No, there's a lot of cool
Yeah.
stuff in Black Ops 6. There is a lot more going on with Black Ops 6 audio, but I don't think it is like transformative to the degree that Hellblade is intending to be.
Best score in music. No.
I think Hellblade is very much intentionally like a pretty crazy
Oh yeah.
high quality audio design. All right. Next up, Best Score in Music, Astrobot, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Metaphor ReFantazio, Silent Hill 2, and Stellar Blade. This is a stacked category this year. I think I know what Brett's vote's going to be.
I think you might be surprised.
Really?
I think you might be surprised.
Not going for Metaphor?
Okay, for me, um, for something to be considered best score in music, like there's a difference between this song is really good for the scene and this
Okay.
song is so good I want to listen to it in my free time without the game. I can do that with
That's fair.
like every single Persona battle song. I can do that with every single Shin Megami Tensei battle song. All the weird random ass PS2 games that the same composer has made music for. But there's just something about that's just I just can't. That's not gonna.
Immediate
It's
vocals in the
it's
first combat.
fine. It's cool. it's unique, and I think the soundtrack is good for the game, but I wouldn't really say that anything goes above and beyond incredible. I'm gonna listen to it in my free time. Meanwhile, I have a large percentage of the soundtrack from the first Final Fantasy VII remake game in just my regular old playlist because that shit is so motivating, like crazy.
Yeah.
And from what I have heard of the Rebirth soundtrack, it's just more of that for
Yeah.
more. So
So I'll specify. I don't
feel
think
like
I
it's gonna get
said
that.
the nominees for the categories. So we have Astrobot, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Metaphor, ReFantazio, Silent Hill 2, and Stellar Blade. Brett, I'm with you. I have been playing Metaphor. I think Metaphor's soundtrack is phenomenal. I think it's really good, and
It
I
is
actually
good.
am of the opinion that I don't care for best score in music. I don't care if it's a thing I'll listen to outside of the game. Well, what I care is it the best thing for the game in every moment? Final Fantasy VII Rebirth soundtrack is so good that there are certain songs I am certain I could put on in Spotify that would make me spontaneously cry. Like,
Oh my god.
I,
Yeah.
and that's the thing the Final Fantasy team is really good at doing. That like as much as I love the Astrobot soundtrack, I don't think anything in Astrobot's gonna pull that strong of an emotion out of me.
So, yeah, it's funny. Literally, the only game that I've played on this list is Astrobot, right? I think the music is like catchy and fun, but I don't really remember it all that well.
Yeah.
And because of how much I loved Final Fantasy VII Remake's music, it's probably also Rebirth, even though I've literally never listened to it,
I
which
had
feels
no
kind of
idea.
unfair, but
I had
Alex, you
no
look so
idea.
puzzled.
I had no idea Astrobot had fingernail feet.
Well, I'm glad we waited for that.
I don't think he does either.
such a build-up.
I don't think he does either.
Built up. But I think Stellar Blade 2 deserves an honorable mention here because I think the soundtrack to Stellar Blade is really really good. But I think it has that same kind of thing with Metaphor where it's such a strong soundtrack, but it's also not like the usage of motifs does not impress me as much as Final Fantasy VII does.
It doesn't transcend like you would have to win.
I can't sit in my chair and become part of the transcendent plane because Soken or Nobuo Uematsu is jamming so hard that I can't stop. That said, I have a suspicion the popular vote here probably is Metaphor. I think Metaphor is probably the most like recognizable, where like they're just gonna use the throat singing, right? Like that's gonna be the thing that they recognize as like the song. And I would not be upset if it won, but I do think Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is just like on the level of being a composed soundtrack, so good. To a point where I really am pulling for that one.
Would you say that when you listen to it, you find it hard to keep your composure?
You could say that. You could say I feel like I'm maybe reborn a little bit. All right.
For the final time.
Let's move on. Unless anyone else has thoughts on best audio direction or best score and music that are different from what we were already saying. Do people think Metaphor is going to win on merit of, as Brett put it, or
I don't know a thing about Metaphor,
That's
so
not
I
what
have
I
no
said.
idea. Genuinely, I have no idea.
this looks so
I think after this,
offensive.
Alex, what's going on? Bring us
Once
into your
again,
thought process.
it's one of the things where it's like I have seen you play Stellar Blade once. The music has no place in my memories. I don't remember it at all. I vaguely remember some electric guitar, maybe.
Do you remember Metaphor? Do you remember the crazy throat singing of Metaphor?
I remember the throat singing.
Yeah, okay.
That's unfortunately the only song I remember. I'd like
There we
to
go.
I'd like to hear some of the ambient music or the stuff in the background of cutscenes and things, but I the only thing I remember is the throat singing. Haven't heard any music from Rebirth that I can remember.
Man, you should play those games, Alex. I think you'd like them.
I gotta wonder, for anyone who's gonna watch this episode, how are they going to enjoy 4 people who've probably collectively played like 1/4 of the games that we're actually talking about right now?
I mean, that's the position of most people that watch these award shows. If not less.
I joined. I was like, "Oh hell yeah, cool, sick, fun! I'm back for it." And then I opened up the website, and I'm just like, oh, "Shit!" Like, that actually
Who are you
What are
people?
these? I've never even heard of these.
All right,
What?
let's. I'm going to
What?
force us to
Where's
move on
Outwashing? What?
to best art direction because we got
Why
a
is
lot
it
of shit to
Fortnite
still
in
talk
every
about.
single category?
Oh my god! Wow. Yeah,
So
boy.
let's talk about best art direction. And our nominees for best art direction: Astrobot, Black Myth Wukong, Elden Ring: Shadow of the Erdtree, Metaphor ReFantazio, and Neva. All good nominees. I think there is a clear winner to me in this category, which is Metaphor. I think that team just does art direction.
That's very interesting because I also think there's a clear winner, but it's not Metaphor.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna agree with Wyatt in this case.
So,
I know
okay.
which one you're going for.
Yeah, Neva. Has to be now. Keep in mind, in this podcast, I am not one of the artists, right? But with that caveat out of the way, I think Neva is probably one of the prettiest games that I've ever seen.
Really
I
pretty.
have never. I played this on PS5. I have never smashed that screenshot button more than when I'm playing Neva. Like there are very few games that I have played in my life where every single frame that is happening is like a 10 out of 10 painting that I want up on the wall. I want it
Yeah,
up on the
it's
ceiling when I sleep at night so that I can see it when I wake up in the morning. So I can
what's
start
the
off my morning like the right way. Like
what's the phrase for that again? It's the every frame a painting.
Yeah.
no, well,
Type.
and it's literal in this case. I just the use of color and the like the just it's just fluid as hell animation is so slick, and the environments that you're in and how it combines with the music as well. It just I'm like in awe every time I play it. Like I feel like half of the time I've been playing this game, my mouth has just been like
You're making Neva move
agape.
further up my list, Wyatt, every time you
Dude,
mention it.
and
It's
again, I'm not
his
an
job
artist,
then.
so maybe I don't know how much my opinion matters, but like oh my god, it's so pretty. I can't. I'll get
Yeah.
emotional about it.
I was gonna say I can't wait to be traumatized by a pet dying. Wow.
God.
I swear, if they kill the dog, I'm gonna be so upset. I'll be so upset.
I'm not gonna
All
say
right.
You
anything.
know what has to happen,
I'm
Ryan?
not gonna
It's a
I'm not gonna
video
say
game.
anything. I'm not gonna
I
say anything.
think if they kill that dog, especially if it's at the end of the game, I'm like, I've seen that story before, and I want to move on. I don't need to see another story of a man and his dog or a woman and her dog, and the dog just dies. And I'm just like, that's half the stories.
Would you say that you'll never forgive them?
Ah.
Brett,
Brett,
And
you're
you know, I'll
what's your
learning.
just
pick
take
here?
that in the next segment
Brett,
because I
you're
still have
learning.
more to say. So too bad. You don't get to cut me off. I think it's more of a toss-up
Yeah.
than there being one clear winner because I really think all these games look phenomenal in their own different way. I think for once we've actually had like 5 games that look like great
Unique.
and completely different, and none of them are like yes, you can see Wukong's hair follicles, but it's not like pure realism to the point where it's like that's it, and it's just trying to
Because
look
I
as
think art
realistic as
direction is like
possible.
inclusive of things like creature designs and
Exactly,
like in
exactly.
Wukong's enemy designs are
Yeah,
crazy. They're
Wild.
so
and the
cool.
environments too.
Astrobot's
They're super sick.
level like art and environment art is phenomenal.
Mhm.
I
Absolutely.
just like me some good UI, and dang, Metaphor hits the spot with its
Yeah.
crazy UI.
That's so
Would
cool too,
I
because Neva like has
be?
almost no UI, and it's better off for it.
Would am I going to get hate here if I say that Shadow of the Erd Tree is the weakest of this category?
I'll stand up for it, and I will hate you.
Okay.
I think Astrobot might be the
Assuming
weakest
you were asking for
overall.
somebody to do that,
I'm
because
here
I
to
think
engage in.
Astrobot is very good. I mean, I don't know anything about Metaphor ReFantazio to be clear. But of the art that I've seen in all of the other games, I would agree with Ryan that Astrobot is probably the weakest, but that does not make it bad by any
That's
stretch
not
of the
a it's bad. That's a there are 5 really
Yeah.
good nominees up here.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
So Brett, why would you hate me for this one?
Because I think the best part about Elden Ring is the fact that there are just parts of the game that look like they came out of the concept artist's like sketchbook, and they just lifted it
Yeah.
directly. So like it's one of the very few games that has been able to do that, and just like Even from the base game, even just like when you get to Liurnia for the first time and you just get to walk around in that one Rembrandt painting, the Wanderer over the Fog, they just recreated that moment in 3D with a magic castle in the background. And for as much as my own personal feelings towards the DLC may taint my other opinions about it, they will not taint how absolutely insanely dreamlike the whole entire environment is. They have some like, yes, it
Mhm.
starts out and it's very gray, but I think that's there to kind of trick your brain into when things get like just like there's a whole environment that's just like just blue and the grass is blue and it's like against the ocean and there's these giant skyscraper sized like coffins that are just like diagonally buried into the ground.
That's
It's
pretty
just
cool.
crazy like that. They just went insane with the environment and enemy design.
And in
And I
Shadow of
think
the Erdtree,
that's,
more so than the base game, almost all those
yes, even
areas
more than
are
the base game.
accessible. Like they are part of the
Yeah.
level,
What
which
they're
is
what they're saying,
crazy.
Alex, is that you're wrong.
Listen, no, no,
And
I absolutely
we
get that.
hate
I
you.
think what I was
Yeah,
thinking more.
you asked if anybody hated you.
Yeah, yeah. I think what my mind was stuck on was definitely the I forg I was discounting the actual like did visual design and things like that. I think what my I was getting mainly stuck on was color palette and stuff like that, because for the majority of it, with the exception of the like the bluegrass you mentioned and the little hideaway area that's accessible via emote and weird statue, it's still like mostly oh, we're in Browntown again for the vast majority of
I
the area, color palette wise.
I think over this massive year-long trash sabbatical that I've had stuck in that dumpster this whole time, I think I need to become the sole proponent of brown not being so bad after all.
Especially when it's
I think
brown
I've
mixed
come
with
around on
color.
brown not being so bad. I
Because
think
it's brown mixed with shadow blacks, and
yes,
then you have the fire reds from the flame, mesmer's flame, and whatnot that just make it look so good.
I think it can be done tastefully, and I think they've done it.
All right,
I
let's
think
move on
so.
to best narrative because we need to jam on some things now because we're running long already, and we got the three biggest categories left.
Oh
Mhm.
God.
So best narrative: Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Like a Dragon: Infinite Wealth, Metaphor Refantasio, Senua's Saga: Hellblade 2, and Silent Hill 2. Stacked category again. I do think there's two nominees I feel weird about on here, and I'm curious if you guys agree. I don't think Final Fantasy VII Rebirth or Silent Hill 2 should be on this.
Really?
Because they're remakes.
I think Rebirth more so should be. I think Rebirth I'm not actually mad about being here. I think Silent Hill 2 I feel weird about it being a proper remake.
Yeah.
Like, the story's been told. Like, we know, specifically, especially in the case of Silent Hill 2, like, this is the same story as the first one. Rebirth is like taking a 8-hour chunk of game and expanding it into a 40 to 60-hour chunk of game.
Which is insane.
If not more than that. So like there's a lot of original stuff in there that it wasn't in the base,
Yeah.
but I do still feel odd about it being included. Infinite Wealth is
I
really
think
good from what I played. Oh, go ahead, Brett.
Rebirth does more to transform the old narrative than Silent Hill 2 does, because all the best parts of Silent Hill 2 remake story wise are the
Yeah.
parts from the original game, because the game is like twice as long as the original, and the way that they pad that out is with padding. And I don't know, it's really hard to add things to such a tightly written with satisfying mystery story that the original game had. So those are kind of the weakest parts for it, which is why I think it's just weird for it to be here, because it's just going to be riding on the coattails of what made the original so good, and there's not a lot separating it from that narrative wise.
Yeah, Rebirth does kind of have like it has a commentary onto itself built into it, where it's like commenting on the original story of Seven and then making its own changes and whatnot. But I do still think it is largely adhering to at least the flow of Seven, if that makes sense. But I feel like Rebirth has at least some commentary to make on it. I do think Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, from what I played of it, was really interesting. I haven't finished that game, and I am still kicking myself for not having done so earlier. But I think what I have played of it is really good. and really fun. Metaphor is Metaphor. I've been playing the start of it, and I am nothing but enthralled by what's going on. So I think it's really strong. I haven't played Hellblade. I know a lot of people who have, who really love it. So I imagine Hellblade is very strong as well.
Yeah, it's good. It is good. I need to finish it. I sound hesitant because I need to finish it to see how they wrap all these things together. I'll put it this way: it is not at all what I was expecting from a Hellblade sequel. They really take it in a very interesting direction that I was
You
not.
become the Doomslayer?
No, well, it's fascinating. I don't want, because I don't want to spoil anything, because literally talking about any aspect of this story I feel like is a spoiler because it's such a short game, so I don't want to say anything. But yeah, and also it's the only game that I've played on this list, so I can't really.
There's a real glaring omission on here from me, and Brett, I think you might have played this game, but I'm not sure. I feel like 1000 Times Resist should be on this.
Yeah.
What's that?
Yeah.
Really excellent narrative indie game.
Yeah. Which I come back after all this time, and I'm just gonna say the same thing that I always do about indie games getting ignored because there's not enough space for them, but they have to have the same game appear 18 different times on these categories. But 1,000 Times Resist, 1,000 X. I don't know how you're actually supposed to say it.
1,000
We'll go
X
for 1,000
resist
Times
is
Resist because
the spelling at least.
yeah, it's a mystery. I don't know how to read. That is the whole crux of that game, and it is really special and really cool. I need to finish it because I have not finished it yet, but
I
that
haven't
deserves
finished
to
it
be
either,
here.
but I've really
And
enjoyed the start
also,
of it.
the crazy part is nothing has to leave because there's only 5 games in this category, and some of them have 6. So you just kind of
And
put
you
that
know what?
in
We
there.
can take
It
Silent Hill
wouldn't
2
change
out
anything.
and add one more thing in there.
We could just you know, we'll put Fortnite in.
Fortnite
the
is
6th game.
Hey, baby.
The stories that you make during those multiplayer matches.
The Lord Dubs. You gotta understand why Iron
All
Man
right,
is
now I
dropping
do have to
pieces
pull
of
us
his
to the next
armor.
thing. We're losing the plot. Oh, actually, I do want to ask for this one, what do we think the popular vote is?
Rebirth.
Oh.
Really?
I'm gonna say either.
I think
I'm
it's
gonna go with
Refantasio.
Metaphor. Yeah, probably also Metaphor.
Metaphor.
We'll see which of us is correct, if it's Brett or the rest of the gang. Okay, best game direction. Always that weird, maybe second place way to think about it in terms of Game Awards. Award for Outstanding Creative Vision and Innovation in Game Direction and Design. Astrobot, Balatro, Black Myth Wukong, Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and Metaphor Refantasio. First of all, Shadow of the Erdtree, this is the part of the thing where I feel like Shadow of the Erdtree should not be in this or the next category. Just because it's not a full game release, I do think there is like some method to best game direction and game of the year requiring a new game, but I might also be insane for thinking that.
Should we talk about this now, or should we save it for the last category? Because I do have things to say about that being a problem.
Let's do it now,
agree
because
with you
we're
that
going
it's
to
a
talk
problem.
about these games regardless, so might as well front load the discussion.
They let this motherfucker in on Airbud rules. And what I mean by that is that in the rules of basketball, nowhere does it say a dog can't play basketball, and then all of a sudden there's dogs playing basketball, and everyone just goes, okay, well, I guess that's fine. Nowhere in the rules did it say a DLC couldn't win any of these high top of the line categories that everybody cares the most about before, but they specifically made a post on all the social medias and everything saying that, oh, just in case you guys didn't know, DLC can win best game direction and game of the year categories. You're not being slick, Jeff Keighley, you psycho. What do you think you're doing?
Your kicks
You're not
can't
fooling
distract us
anybody.
from this.
I severely do not want to see an Airbud sequel happen next Game Awards. You're in the
I don't want to
DLC
see
up for grabs
Airbud
for that.
happen this Game Awards. And here's why. I think FromSoft is amazing. I think they are one of, if not the best, just dev teams in the AAA space right now, because the things that they make are constantly high quality, whether you like them or not. They have like yeah, they stick to what they're good with, but they do this crazy thing called actually innovating and like switching around like
Yeah.
staff to see what they bring to the table, and then they'll helm their own game, and that's what happens with like Sekiro and with Armored Core 6. And there's things that aren't really that good about some of them, but they're unique and they're amazing in their own ways. FromSoft is great. None of this is to say that FromSoft sucks.
Hard
I'm
agree.
gonna get dumb people on the internet are gonna misconstrue that and think that I'm saying that anyway. So I'm just gonna say it now. I'm not saying that. I have a Dark Souls 2 poster up on my wall. Do you know how that makes me feel every single day of my life, waking up and looking at that, knowing that I'm better than all of you that don't like it?
Oh, I was gonna say
All of
queasy,
that to
but I
say,
guess that too.
all of that to say, any company, including From Software, to win twice in a row and they didn't even pull out a full game this year is stupid. That's the dumbest thing ever. And for like I just cannot believe that that's even a possibility. And I feel like maybe I've been fooled. Maybe I've been played for a gamer moron, and that's exactly what Jeff wants to happen. And that's just building up engagement. He's grifting like a Twitter bot. And I just don't know what the point of giving it to the same dev team, no matter how good a DLC is, giving Game of the Year to the same dev team 2 years in a row when they didn't put out a full game to win it is stupid. It's dumb. It doesn't matter who it is. It's dumb, and it's so annoying for all the people that love to talk about FromSoft games and are fans of FromSoft games and just and enjoy having discourse about FromSoft games, because one of the best part about a new one coming out is the online communities figuring stuff out and solving all this stuff. And then, oh god, this is going to give the haters so much
You know what?
Keely's gone and
ammunition.
That's what
muddied
I
the
was about to
waters.
So
say.
much.
That's what I was about to say, is that people who adamantly hate FromSoft for
Yeah.
whatever stupid reason, they're gonna have a field day
And
if
they're
this
gonna do it
wins, like,
whether or not this
multiple
wins or
awards.
loses too. Like it doesn't matter if
Yeah.
Shadow
'Cause
of
it
the
got
Tree wins or
nominated.
loses. It
Yeah.
getting nominated opened this floodgate. Yeah. So I'll pull us back to the actual category here for a second. Best game direction. I do think, like, in addition to the Airbud rules thing and everything Brett just said, the other reason I don't think Shadow of the Tree should be up for this is I do not think it is stronger game direction than any of the other games in this category.
No.
Because I
I
think
think it has
game
weaker
direction,
game direction than base Elden Ring, to be honest with you.
yeah, game direction is a thing inclusive of a lot of elements of game design and direction development. I think in this case, it's a lot of this also includes things like cinematics and how they handle those things. For me, I think, caveating that I have not played a ton of Metaphor. I've only been about, like, I think I'm about 6 or 7 hours in, and I'm really enjoying Metaphor. I think for me, my personal pick is Black Myth Wukong. The direction of that game is so well done and like crazy creative, and just a thing that as Western game developers we don't often get to see. That I'm really just excited to see it up here, and I think this is like the perfect spot for Black Myth Wukong to get best game direction. That said, I'm not mad if any of the other games on this list win this, because I think every other game here has great direction. I do think Balatro is kind of a weird pick in that that's a much smaller team. Game direction gets kind of muddied when you're largely a single person team. I think this is more of a like specific AAA category to me, in that like I think game direction does require a bigger team to really shine through. But I am not mad if Balatro wins. I do think Balatro is great.
From what I've seen of other people play it, I think I would go with Black Myth Wukong as well. I think I have something weird is going on in my head with Astrobot, because I feel like that but both could and couldn't be a close second, because it's expounding on the design that already exists for the essential tech, the tech demo that you got with the PS4. So it's
So
building off of, so it's not like the DLC situation because it's a full game of that.
But it's crazy
But
creative. Astrobot is
Yeah.
crazy
so
creative.
here's my
it's
here's my
also
thing with
oh boy, those haptics.
here's
Oh,
my
yeah.
thing with Astrobot. there's something I haven't been able to shake with this game.
Is
And
it his fingernail feet?
ever since you pointed it out, it's been bothering me. There is a part of me, and I want to say I like this game a lot. I think it's incredibly creative. I think a lot of its gameplay decisions lands it as a solid spot in game direction in this category. I just can't shake the feeling that sometimes I feel like I'm playing the biggest piece of PlayStation propaganda that I have ever seen in my entire life. And it bothers me sometimes because the integration of all these little characters and all of the like even the most obscure like PlayStation accessories imaginable are here. And they're cute and they have these really high quality like 3D models of them and everything, but I'm like, man, I feel like I'm like eating a giant PlayStation propaganda poster in like a giant buffet, and it's just being fed into my mouth right now.
And
And
by
it's
golly, I'm gonna gobble that shit up.
and here's the thing: the game's a lot of fun, and it's really cute, and it does a lot of cute things with it. It's just this weird, kind of weird, like Orwellian feeling that I can't quite like kick from my system. There's
Open
just
your
something.
gullet, boy. It's
There's
time
like
for
something
marketing.
just off about it.
See,
Where
I
it's
would
like,
agree with this
ah,
if they were not doing like really legitimate good fan service to everything that they pulled out, but like
which is
they're
why
so careful with everything to where I
which is
don't think
why
that's
I'm
ever their
50-50 on
intention.
it.
It's
Which
for
is why I'm
propaganda.
50-50 on it because I think the game there's a ton of work that's put it into parts of the game that have nothing to do with PlayStation, which is just great gameplay. It's really endearing. This Astrobot character, he's so cute and adorable and has so much personality. But it's always in the back of my head,
But it's also like
and I
Astrobot
can't.
is a
It
mascot
bothers me.
platformer, right? Like that's the genre of game
Yeah.
that Astrobot's in, and this is a genre that was built to be cutesy and sell consoles, right? Like I think any of that you say towards Astrobot applies to every other platformer game. I mean, Astrobot is
Right?
just wearing
But
it on
here's
its
the thing.
sleeve.
It's not like you're playing as Master Chief in the latest Halo game and one of your objectives is to go pick up a giant Xbox console that as like a mission. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but Halo's not a mascot platformer, right? Like different genres. I do
You're
think
talking about
legitimately
platformers
that.
specifically.
No,
Okay.
I'm talking
Well
about
then for
mascot
example,
platformers.
you don't see Sly Cooper sneaking around the top of a PlayStation 2. It just
Well, that's because PlayStation didn't have a popular mascot, and if you go back far enough, you
you
will
keep
see.
changing the goalposts on this, and I'm not okay
No,
with
I'm
it.
not. I'm talking about Mario because the thing for this, the comparison for Astro is clearly Mario, and Mario is Nintendo propaganda. Like, it is. Like if you go back to Pokemon, every Pokemon game has a Nintendo Switch or like similar thing in the room that you wake up in at the start. I think Astrobot is
But
just
it's
really
like
clearly.
but it's like every inch of it. And
Yeah,
to be
because
clear,
it's
I'm not
wearing a
saying
love of game development and game design on its sleeve so wholeheartedly that it's celebrating everything that they can. Because, like, I think if the Astrobot devs were given the licenses to include everything, they would have. Like, legitimately, I don't think it's that. I think it's they use what they had access to, which is
There,
PlayStation. Right?
there was
Like,
an update that added Cade from Destiny and just the oh my god, what's the Stellar Blade character's name?
Eve.
Yeah, Cade and Eve as little like
Yep.
bot costumes.
and to be clear, I'm not like I'm grappling with how I feel about that because it is a little thing in the back of my mind, but it's also not tainting my overall opinion of the game, which is I think it's very good. But because we're in game direction specifically, it's just this little nagging little thing in the back of my head that I can't ignore.
To me, that
You
makes
know what
game
I
I'm
mean?
gonna
direction
say
stronger because I'm
something.
like, yeah, go for it.
I'm gonna say something that may blow some people's minds. I understand why it's coming from, and
No, I
I
understand it
actually
too. I don't want to say that I don't
I
understand it.
I think
because
you're very wise to be very wary of propaganda,
there's
which
a difference
that's mine.
between starting up Pokemon and there's an SNES in the room and go save the John Bloodborne from this jam that he's in, and you get the Bloodborne bot. Oh wait, you want to actually play Blood? Oh, well, you gotta play the old sticky version. We won't get a new one of those.
See, this is a great thing that you say, Brett. But then the game goes, "Oh, let's go rescue John, God of War," and then you play God of War in Astrobot. you actually play God of War in Astrobot. They
pretty
made a
cool.
God of War level that
like-
plays like God of War in
and
Astrobot.
that's pretty cool. Like that's why I'm of two minds on this. What really started this whole mindset for me and this thought process is, what's the main villain in this game? It's a giant green monster that has a very specific shade of green.
Oh,
I don't.
What's one of the
I don't buy
bosses
that.
that you fight? A giant gorilla that throws red girders at you.
I think that's great. I think that's wonderful.
I'm just saying.
Astrobot 3 goes in depth on the console war. We meet Astro in the trenches, media res.
Was it intentional? I can't confidently say. Is it eerie? Absolutely.
All right, let's move on from your dystopian Astrobot views to I want to actually, because I think that for this category more than the others, I think like providing a reason as to what the ranking is for me is a little bit more important, because like I would put, if I were to like stack rank my game direction picks, it's Black Myth, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Astrobot, Metaphor, then Balatro and Shadow of the Earth Tree are like sitting in a corner at the bottom. Great games, but not things that I would want this award to go to. Specifically Black Myth for all the reasons I said. I think Rebirth is another really good case because there's a lot of directorial choices that go into making a midpoint remake of Final Fantasy VII for a lot of obvious reasons. And I think there's a lot of creative choices that went into how they handled everything. I think the gameplay direction, and there is a point in the midpoint of the game that I think seals this for me, where you play through an opera as like a just crazy sequence that happens. It's kind of like the equivalent of the dance sequence in the first remake. And it is so crazy and just fun to do as this like one-off thing, but there's so many like little details that go into it that make it perfect. That I think it really lands well. And then Astrobot's just Astrobot's just joyful. I think it's just a joyful platformer that has a love of video games.
It is.
On its sleeve that no other game can do, because it's being very direct about it. Like it is straight up just celebrating everything gaming in a way that nothing else does. Okay. Unless anyone else has thoughts about best game direction, what do we think the popular pick is for best game direction? This is a hard one for me, because I don't actually think critics are going to say Shadow of the Earth Tree is best game direction. I think they're probably going to say it's Metaphor.
I hope you're right.
I feel like Metaphor is the popular one, but I also think this is more of a toss-up. Like, I legitimately can't really predict where the vote's going to fall.
I could see either Black Myth Wukong or Metaphor.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I feel like those are going to be the front runners.
I will say this too, for my personal pick, because I've only played Astrobot and Black Myth, I'm going to go with Black Myth. I'm going to say this, I think Neva should have been up here. And I say that
I don't disagree. Yeah.
And I say that because it does say innovation, where in terms of gameplay mechanics, it doesn't really do anything that's new. What I think it does an incredible job of is marrying all of its different kind of presentation together. Like,
I probably would have swapped that out for Balatro.
Yeah, music, visuals, like just the way everything plays together, because it's also an almost completely dialogueless game, but it's also very narrative heavy. And so the way it kind of frames a lot of, it's like classic Naughty Dog, where like they can frame an environment really well, also does that very well. And just the way that it melds its music and its art style and its use of color to kind of create emotion where dialogue should be is incredible. And I think it should be here somewhere. And I'm very upset that it's not, personally.
Yeah. And also, actually, I think that the two replacements for taking Balatro and Shadow of the Earth Tree out, because they just don't really fit this category. Neva, throw UFO 50 in there.
Sure.
I think UFO 50 is also incredible game direction and would have been my top pick had it been there.
I do think there should be more space in this section for just games that really go out there and get wacky with it.
It's where indie kind of excels and AAA gets a little wacky.
Yeah.
All right. Let's talk about Game of the Year. And funny thing, the nominees are the same. We have Astrobot,
Familiar
Balatro,
category.
Black Myth Wukong, Shadow of the Erd Tree, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and Metaphor ReFantazio. I think if you put a gun to my head right now and ask me to pick a game, it's probably Astrobot. I think Astrobot is just like, when I think of sheer fun that I played this year, the game that I have had the most fun just playing through one time and had a blast, Astrobot is just solidly incredible from start to finish. It's very short, so you aren't there for very long. It's concentrated. It's a big celebration of gaming. But if I had more time to decide, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth might inch up there. Might edge it out in the end, just because of how much I love that game and the fact that the combat system is so much fun to play with over its like very long run. And I nearly 100% of it. I went hard on Rebirth for a couple weeks, and it was a great time. Really, really loved it. So I'd be happy with either of those two winning. What's everyone else think?
Well, it's frustrating because none of the two games that come to mind for Game of the Year for me are on here, which is incredibly frustrating.
What's your two games?
So what's the other one besides Neva?
Neva's one of them.
Yep.
Dungeons of Hinterberg is the other one. And
Great pick.
Nowhere,
Yeah.
and it
Get
is
nominated
nowhere,
at all, which
it is
is weird.
nowhere to be seen on this entire website, and that really frustrates me. This is a weird year for me because I feel like with the last few years, I've been at least pretty on top of what's been coming out. Like, I didn't play everything, but I played a good amount of like most of the categories. This year, I was way more disconnected with what people are talking about than I thought I was. The only two games I've played on here is Astrobot and Black Myth Wukong, and they're both really good, but neither of them are games that I would have considered as my personal game of the year, despite them both being really, really
it's very
good.
valid.
So it just makes this category kind of awkward and difficult, you know? Again, if you had a gun held to my head, if I had to pick one, it's actually really tough. Can I just split the difference?
Come on, gun to your head.
Yeah, I mean, you can do
I don't know either, because I don't feel I don't feel that strongly about either of them.
That's a valid opinion to have, yeah.
In the context of the games that are here and that I've only played two of them, I like them both fairly equally for different reasons.
Very fair. Alex, do you have strong opinions on anything in this category that you want to push for or against?
On it, this is really hard to, especially because I don't have personal experience with. No, wait, that's a lie. But I don't want to acknowledge Shadow of the Erd Tree in here. But that's the only game that I've played of all of these. Like, I've seen you play Rebirth a little bit. I've seen a little bit of play of Metaphor. It would probably go to Astrobot for me as well.
All right, Brett, you gonna come in swinging?
I'm not gonna come in swinging. I'm gonna come in shrugging and exasperated, and my stamina bar is low, and I have a little gasping for air, like anime, like
Heartbeat
puff
going off
coming
every
out
couple of
from
seconds.
my
Dodge a little
mouth.
too many times.
You got to dodge out of the way of the attack, Brett. Come on. Come on.
It's-
Ooh, you got hit.
It's
Oopsie.
oh, those hitboxes. When will they learn to make a video game that works properly? Anyway, I think that it's weird for me because I'm in the same space that I am in almost every year. And now Wyatt has joined me, and I've definitely played many games this year that have come out. It's not a lot that are in here, and some of them are really good. I'm kind of surprised that there what like not just because it is all over social media, but because it's actually good and I think innovative in certain ways. I'm surprised that there's no mouthwashing anywhere. Not in the game of the year category, but just anywhere on the whole list
I think
for
it probably
how
just came out
renowned
too
it
late
is.
because
What
there's a
game?
cutoff for when things are included.
Mouthwashing.
Mouth washing. I've never
And it
Yeah,
might have come out too late. But then
Very
there's
cool
just
looking
like a
horror
bunch
game.
of just like the usual Brett plays indie things that don't get represented, and the one my one foot in the door metaphor is definitely good, and I definitely do like it a lot, and my thoughts walking away from it are that it was really good, and I like how it ended up, but that that middle section, which only amounts to like 2 or 3-ish hours, I want to say, uh, was such a slog and such a borderline game ruiner almost until they remembered they had to go back to making a good video game. That I don't know, like I don't know, I don't know if I would consider it the best game out of the games that I have played this year that came out this year. But I guess it's my favorite out of these, so that is what I will pick for myself.
Yeah, that's a very solid deduction.
You guys think
Um,
Slay the Princess deserves a spot in any of these?
so the
Oh,
Princess
that
came
would
out
be
last
so
year,
cool.
I think.
Did it?
I
Did
don't
it
think
come
that
out
was this
last
year.
year?
Yeah, because
Has it been that long?
it's been a while because the Pristine Cut just came out, and that's
That
23.
might be
That's last
Oh,
year.
okay. That might be what I yeah.
Great game, very very good. Play Slay the Princess if you haven't. Yeah, this is a weird category for me, and I do think this is like this year. I think this demonstrates the difference between game direction and game of the year to me, because I do think like Astrobot, I don't think would be up there for game direction for me. It is up there for game of the year for me because I think there's a very strong difference. Whereas like Black Myth is pretty far from my game of the year. Like I like Black Myth, I didn't like it enough for it to be the best thing that I played this year. Um, to the point where I wouldn't even consider it in my top 5 probably, even though I do really like it. It's just like I played enough indie and other things, whereas I do think Astrobot and Final Fantasy VII Rebirth are in my top 5. Metaphor, we'll see where it lands because I'm really enjoying it so far, but at the same time I think I'm a little burnt out of Atlas. Like their
You
Persona
did do a
Metaphor
lot this
style.
year.
I think there's just a lot of stuff this year. I played Shin Megami Tensei 5 Vengeance, which was really fun, but I already played Shin Megami Tensei 5, and then I'm playing Persona 5 Royal at the same time, which I've already played Persona 5, but I've not played the Royal version. So I'm like very Atlas out at the moment, and I think that's making it less fun to me than it would be otherwise. But
Very
yeah, I think for me,
understandable.
it's really Astrobot, Balatro, and Final Fantasy VII Rebirth are like top 3, and then everything else is kind of just below right now.
Tactical Breach Wizards came out this year too.
I'm upset web fishing isn't on this list
Web
anywhere.
fishing isn't no web fishing representation.
All right. Well, that's the Game Awards list. We're going to be doing a reaction stream to the Game Awards when the actual show happens, which is December 12th at 4:30 p.m. Pacific.
There are a few things that I wanted to mention that I'm
Yep.
very surprised are not here.
Yes, go for it.
So, Ryan, don't you feel like in either the ongoing game or community support, Wayfinder should have been there somewhere?
I think Wayfinder should have been, absolutely. And I probably would
That's
have
the big
put
thing
it
for me.
in Best Independent. Because Wayfinder's a weird case where it had a publisher, the publisher dropped it and left, and then they changed the genre of the game. And independently published it. So I think Wayfinder is the definition of an independent game where they had to go out on their own and release it on their own.
Yeah.
I probably
But
would have
also-
loved to see it in independent. I don't know if I would have
But
picked it,
also
but
in ongoing or community support, because they got their shit
yes.
together.
I mean,
They
honestly,
got their
both.
shit together, and then they fully released the game, and it wasn't stuck in like early access hell for that long.
Yeah.
Either. Like it was such a quick turnaround, and so I'm a little
It
disappointed
was within a
that
year,
it's
yeah.
not.
Crazy.
Yeah, which is insane. So I'm a little disappointed that that isn't there. That's kind of the big like.
It's also that Dungeons of Hinterberg and 1,000 Times Resist are really surprising omissions from me.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are ones where
I
I
would have
am
liked
just kind
to
of
have
surprised they're not
seen
there.
Banishers
And UFO 50.
I would have liked to have seen Banishers in Best Narrative, because that
I
was
think Banishers
excellent.
was last year as well.
Oh, last year was it?
Oh no, it was February. It was February.
Okay, just checking.
Yeah, so it would have been fit.
I think that would have been a great fit for narrative, personally. Also, I'll say this: art direction. I understand why it's not here because not encompassing all of the kind of artistic direction for it doesn't quite fit. Veilguard's environmental art is like an 11 out of 10. It is gorgeous. Character models, I have mixed opinions on, but man, their environment artists fucking killed it.
They did.
Another Crab's Treasure also came out this year.
I'm not surprised that's not here. As much as I like that game, I'm not stunned. And Crab's Treasure is good. I don't think it was best indie, or even I think there's a lot of things that came out this year that were more well respected than it. Tactical Breach Wizards. Kind of surprised that's not in not debut indie because it's not a debut indie, but best indie. Bunch of other fun stuff came out this year too.
If we're okay with putting early access games on here, where the heck is Hades 2?
Also, I gotta mention, okay, so Final Fantasy XIV often has expansions up for awards, typically in the best ongoing and whatnot. I'm legitimately surprised that they did not put World of Warcraft up for any of these, because World of Warcraft has been having the best year that it's ever had, I think. All the disclaimers there of like, I work at Blizzard, I know a lot of WoW devs, I don't do anything with that team, but I was not a World of Warcraft player for a long time. I'm a die-hard Final Fantasy XIV player, and still am. But I've been getting into WoW again, because I played it a lot when I was a kid with World Within, and it's really fun right now. It's like legitimately quite good, and I think like the presentation of the campaign is so enjoyable compared to what early expansions were, that I'm like having such a good time, and I'm just really surprised that with all of that goodwill that it's gotten, that it's not up here on anything, especially community support or ongoing. I think would have been good fits for it. But
also, I'll say this: I think it is high time that they add an early access category.
Yeah,
they absolutely
put some stuff
need an
into the early access
category.
category would have been good.
Yep, or
and just quarantine them there. Just quarantine them there.
And a DLC category, I think, is also very appreciated.
Yeah, like most promising DLC, most promising early access, or something like that. I think would be great.
So that we don't repeat the mistakes that we've made here this year.
Yeah.
And I think people might be saying, well, but what if there's a year where the DLCs aren't that good? Is it just because it's just going to become another?
Then don't have it. Don't have the category.
Sports racing. Exactly.
Yeah.
Just leave it outside. It would be, I think, so much more interesting if the categories fluctuated depending on what actually was good in the year, instead of just like, oh, we got to fill this up with 5 somethings. I don't know that.
We gotta put sim and strategy together and sports and racing together just to make the kind of, just don't do it.
I think they gotta put Fortnite in both of them. They gotta put Fortnite in both of them, and it's gonna win.
All right. Well, we're going off the rails, which does mean I have to pull us to shoutouts, because we were going to talk about Avowed. We're already, I think, the longest episode we've ever recorded.
Wow.
So I'm going to say we're not going to talk about Avowed today, and we'll save that for a little bit closer to its release date. We were also going to go over the Fantasy League. I'll give the super quick updates. It's a very tight race right now between me and Alex, and everyone else is a little bit behind.
Yeah, with no hope of coming back.
It's tight race between Alex and I. One of us is going to win almost definitely. And then Brett is a close third, much closer than everyone else. Wyatt and Alex, the Alex is not here currently.
I will say I was not great for a lot of the year, and I've started.
Oh, you've been pulling, but there's not a lot of time left. Wyatt.
The problem is the games that would get me a lot of points are deciding to not fucking release this year.
Sometimes it happens. Let them cook. All right. And on that note, let's go to shoutouts. Give our shoutouts for the day. We'll revisit the things that we didn't talk about next time. So, gang, what's your shoutout? Who's got one ready? Wow.
Absolutely nobody.
Really ready
I'll let
to
the
go.
crickets out of my pocket.
And nothing's changed. Nothing's changed. I see.
Here, you know what? I'll go. I got it. All right. So, my girlfriend and I've been watching this show recently. It's a show that I watched when I was a kid, and it's been really fun to rewatch it because I remember a lot of the overarching story stuff that happens, but not a lot of the individual episodes, which has been a lot of fun. It's this great show. Has anyone here seen Warehouse 13 before?
I've heard it's great. I haven't watched it yet.
Okay. It is so much fun. So it is a show about two Secret Service agents, and they are moved to this very mysterious sector of the government called Warehouse 13, which when they get there, they realize that it's a very hush-hush, down low department where it's a giant warehouse filled with historical artifacts that have different powers. And it's usually like a monkey's paw situation where it has this incredible power, but also affects the user in a negative way. So they have really cool things like if you know who Matahara is, who is a spy during World War One or World War Two, if you wear her stockings and then you and she's known for getting information out of people. So if you wear her stockings and then kind of touch people with it will make them like fall madly in love with you and stuff like that. Or like they have a chunk of the Titanic where if you blow it in a direction, it'll like almost completely freeze someone, and the only way to free yourself from it is that you have to hold on to it, kind of like what the people on the boat would have done. They would have had to hold on to debris in order to like save themselves from
Oh
drowning.
my.
Just cool stuff like that, and so they it's kind of like it's like a mystery show, so they have to go out when there's a ping, when they think there's artifact stuff happening, and they have to go out and figure out what the artifact is, how it's affecting people, and they kind of have to, they call it snag it, bag it, and tag it, which is like they have to find it, they have to nullify its effects, and then bring it back to the warehouse where it's safe. And what I love about it is that it feels mostly really well balanced in it has some really goofy moments. It gets really out there and wacky with the artifacts sometimes and a lot of their editing choices, but it mixes that with like genuinely pretty good like dramatic moments and really good character growth. Like you can really see these characters change from season to season, which is great. Especially the relationship between the two main characters. They never like fall in love, but it's this really cute like platonic relationship that they have throughout the show, which is great.
Nice.
And they also, it's a perfect balance of like they have an overarching story for each season, but they also still have individual seasons where they're just hunting artifacts, and they kind of blend those together really well. It's a really really fun show.
Very cool. It
Just
looks
the
like
right
it's
amount of
included with
camp.
Prime.
Yes, it is. That's where we've been watching it. Just the right amount of camp, but just the right amount of dramatic moments so that you don't get too, out of it. It's
Very fun.
such a fun show.
All right. I got one I can jump in with while you guys are floundering for your final pick. I've been playing some Slitterhead, which I still feel weird every time I say.
I feel like you just shouldn't say that word.
It doesn't, yeah.
It sounds like a slur, and so I'm not going to say it again. Really, legitimately, I think this is a really cool game. It's janky as hell. It is definitely like there's a lot of caveats on recommending playing this game, and I think if you are a person who really likes body horror, you really like if you like Parasite the Maxim, Siren, anything else that's like really weird, this kind of like Japanese horror style, I think you will really like playing this game. The story is near incomprehensible through the way they tell it. It's there, and there is a story. It's just really hard to kind of read up correctly. It's janky to play. The combat system's wacky. It's wacky but very fun. I do like it. It's not really a pure horror game. It's much more of an action game than horror itself. And it's very janky. It's there's a lot of caveats to it, but I do think if you're really into that type of horror, and this type of like weird PS2 almost game that is being released in 2024, I think it's worth supporting because I don't know if they're going to make a lot of money from this.
Probably not.
That's why I recommend it.
That's another game. I just wish it was a little bit cheaper because
it launched at $50, which is a really hard asking price.
Damn.
All right, who else has got one?
I'm solid in mine.
So
yeah,
be solid. And
okay.
You don't need to wait for permission.
Okay. This is where I raise my hand and ask to go next in class.
Look, at this point, it's later than we're usually used to.
Yeah.
True.
Finally got her. I've been traveling recently, so had plenty of time to watch movies and stuff on planes. And also just catch up on backlogs of things. The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare.
Oh, that
Very
movie's
good
so
movie.
good.
Yeah.
I'm glad you liked it. That's a fun one. One of the great things I saw in theaters this year. Brett?
I have mine, and you're not gonna believe it. I've finally sat down and played. It's the most recent game in something that's a franchise that involves playing the game and then dying and then being able to unlock more of the story on future attempts. It's very fan beloved franchise, and it is not Hades 2. It's Breath of Fire 5 for the PS2, and nobody likes this game.
Where the fire?
Everybody says it sucks, and that means that copies of it are like $7. So I got one, and yeah, they made turn-based tactical Hades on the PS2, and nobody liked it because they did it too soon. They simply did it too soon. And
Sounds
There's
because
a
like
the
lot of
reasons
Tristan's
that
PS2
game.
games.
people, yeah, yeah,
Sounds like
I I,
Tristan's
I was I was legitimately interested in it because of how many similarities it has to things that people really like now. This huge wave that keeps continuing to engulf the indie scene that is known by the name of roguelikes, of constantly having to try and get further and further into a run as you possibly can. And in like 2002, that was viewed as abysmal, and how could you possibly enjoy something like this? Um, but seeing how they pulled it off with like memory card saves and not like the I don't know. It's just very interesting how it works with like the internal PS2 memory saves versus memory card saves being like separate things, and you can save in the middle of a thing like uh, Persona 4 Golden, and then when you log back into the game, that save gets deleted automatically, so you can't rely on that if you die. But then also, it's a Capcom game, so it's survival mechanics also. So there's limited save tokens, and there's limited inventory space and stuff. And it's just crazy to see a game that is ahead of its time, and nobody cares about it, and I don't know why, but I'm like 30 hours in, so I guess I care about it now. And there you go.
Well, hey, good reason to
Cool.
care.
Cool.
All right, well, that's the end of our show. We did it. We survived the Game Awards first part. We'll have to survive the second part when we actually get to it. Uh, and on that note, no podcast next week because I'll be rating Brett at a concert this time.
Yes. Yeah, we're gonna
Oh,
see
it's
Machine
supposed to be
Girl.
a secret. Now he knows.
Well, no, because he's the one who told me
Right.
about it
Yeah.
to get tickets. So, man, that should have been the shout out instead. But
True.
hey,
Listen to the new Machine Girl album. It's good.
so yeah, no podcast next week, but the week after we'll be back, and in our usual coverage, holiday stuff will probably be a little bit spotty depending on everyone's schedules and whatnot. But I think we'll be okay this week time. I'll have my laptop with me most of traveling, so expect the production quality to dip a fair bit. It's probably going to be Discord recordings and not have our fancy layout. But aside from that, I think it'll be good to go. So
Yeah.
on that note, we'll see you next time.
Good night.
How did this of all things end up being our longest episode? Especially when we
Oh,
haven't
boy.
played
We don't
most
want to
of the
complain
games this
about
year.
what the Game Awards structure
True.
is.
We did have a lot to complain about.
It's just I find it funny that the 1 year during the Game Awards where we played the least amount of games, we weirdly have the most to talk about. Fascinating. How did we do that to ourselves?